Okay, I'll open the meeting at 9:12 a.m. Thank you for your attendance. Do we have anyone to do confirmation of the minutes of the 10th of August? Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 10th of August 2022 be confirmed.
Is there a seconder?
Mayor, before you get a seconder, can I just, Wendy, it's hard to hear you, Councillor Taylor, it's hard to hear you.
Sorry.
And Mayor, just to acknowledge that I'm online.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want me to repeat it or you're right?
I didn't hear you.
Okay. I'd like to move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 10th of August 2022 be confirmed.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Okay, do we have anyone to confirm the special meeting of the minutes of the 17th of August 2022? Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that the minutes of the special meeting held on 17th of August 2022 be confirmed.
Okay, we have a second, Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Okay, item
36.
page 36.
And just through the chair, I did circulate certainly the attachment attached to the original agenda. The minutes, for some reason, we're not quite sure why, didn't record the vote. The minutes have been circulated to councillors. I would just note that the date of the next meeting, as recorded in the minutes, being the 22nd of August, should have actually stated the 26th of September.
Right. Councillor Hancock.
I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Just wondering, is it practice for us to receive and note unconfirmed minutes? Because they haven't been confirmed at the meeting.
Certainly the charter and the terms of reference say is that we should be getting these minutes to the next available council meeting. So it's certainly timely that in between, it's a meeting that only meets every quarter. So if you wait for confirmed minutes, you'll be 4 months behind. So the reality is it's a receive and note. You're not confirming minutes, you're just receiving and noting the record of those minutes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because if there's something that's not right in those minutes at the next meeting.
We'll pick that up at that meeting, yes.
Yep.
It's just for completeness, is just recognising that you're viewing a record and that record will be amended.
Well, none of us are at that meeting anyways.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'll move that council receive and note the unconfirmed minutes of the audit committee meeting held on 24th of June 2022 and also put also as circulated.
I've got a question.
Please go ahead.
Through the chair, I don't know if this is to you, Councillor Gulder, or to the CEO, but I just note at the meeting that there are only 2 members. How many members of the audit committee do we have?
From through the chair, from a voting perspective, you have 3. So we did have a quorum. We did check that at the time. So yes, it's whilst there's a broader attendance, there's only 3 voting members.
Is that historically, if I can, Chair, historically we've had, I think it was 5 members of the audit committee. What have we got vacancies that need to be filled?
You do have 1 vacancy that needs to be filled from an independent chair perspective, and we certainly reaching out in relation to that. Look, certainly when I look back through the minutes for last year, there was only a maximum of 3 voting then. So I think you've carried this vacancy for some time.
Yeah, and
But
we had people that had been on there long-standing and didn't want to continue, and we went out to the market, as far as I understand, expressions of interest, and yeah, we haven't had huge amount of inquiry.
And just to follow up, Mayor, if I can.
please go ahead.
In the charter for the audit committee, how many members of the committee should there be?
Through the chair, I'd have to take the question on notice because I don't think it's necessarily in the charter. I think it's in the terms of reference, but I'm certainly happy to look at that and get back to you.
Yeah,
you do have a
would.
very small community. You do have a very small committee. Yeah.
And my question is just around the reason of the basis of my questioning is that if there's 4 members of the committee and one's vacant, 2 is not a quorum.
No, we did check and it was a quorum. So I think the established number, from last year was 3. So you did actually have a quorum. Your documentation isn't particularly clean around your audit committee, around its membership in terms of reference, and certainly from the chair's perspective, he wanted to review those items as part of his process. But certainly it's been consistent with what you've been doing.
So, Councillor O'Neill, do you want to lay that on the table to get that information, or are you happy for this to keep going?
It's been a long time since we've had the audit committee meeting minutes come to the council chamber. So I will move that we lay this on the table to get that information in relation to the makeup of the membership and the quorum. Happy to move that.
Okay, and is that later in the meeting or later?
Yeah, later in the meeting.
Righto, all those in favour?
Yes.
Mr Mayor, just also on page 42, there was just a typo in the attendees. It says the operations manager, finance, D. Sutherland's just got listed twice, just to pass that on. Page 42, just in the attendees, it's D. Sutherland's listed twice.
Second and third.
Yeah, it's just one's one way and one's the other.
Okay, so just in the amended minutes, is it?
Yeah, just
In the
here, it's got
Apologies,
two lines.
yeah, I'm just looking at it, yeah, right. It's just been rearranged.
It's just
Yep, I'm with you.
Yeah, I just thought I'd pass it on.
Apologies, yeah.
Oh, it's around I see what you mean. When you read down, pick it up.
Okay, so moving on. Uh, 11.1. Monthly financial report as at the 31st of July 2022. Councillor Taylor,
I have a question. if you
please
don't
go
mind.
ahead.
Through you, Mr Mayor. CEO, on page 47 where it says net rates, levies and charges, it's in the negative there. Could you just explain that to me, please?
Just in relation to, I can take the question on notice and get more detail back from our rate section, but it was around discounts provided and an adjustment. So there was, as the narrative says, discount for early payment of $14,000 given to customer this month, and various rates written off, hence negative income.
Is that normal?
It would be based on resolutions that council's passed, because we wouldn't write off the rates until we actually had resolutions in relation to that. So is that standard? Only if we've got resolutions that say that.
It's because of things waived and things discounted and...
And also, we haven't had our rates go out yet.
Yeah.
So
no,
we've got
I
nothing
realise
for
that.
the new financial year and income.
Yeah.
Because
It just sort of threw me, that's all. Happy to move.
we got Councillor Hancock must have a question.
Just a question, just in relation to that, with that negative net operating result, I understand that it's about timing. Just wanted a question about the FAGS money.
Yes.
Is that including, does that negative include the FAGS money, FAGS grants that we've already been paid? Because we all paid them up front. So does that mean we're already in negative because we've spent that FAGS money?
No, through the chair, where your financial assistance grants will come through is your grant subsidies and contributions, right? So we actually have, that's paid ahead in the previous financial year, so it won't show up in this year. Whilst the money will be spent across this year, it actually sits in our financial accounts for last year because it was received in either April or May. That 75% up forward payment was received in April or May. So it shows back in those financial year 21-22 accounts.
Well, how do we ever balance the books with using that money if it doesn't come forward into the next year?
It's still an accounting process where you're treating it as revenue and you're still applying the revenue in the financial year. It's just in a financial statement perspective, from an accrual perspective, the money is shown in the year that it's received.
So we still have that money sitting there that we're spending?
Yeah, absolutely. So what you'd see in your financial accounts for 30th of June 2022 is you'll be seeing a surplus sitting in there. But again, like all surpluses, is that surplus already committed?
Yeah, it's a committed
Yeah.
surplus. Yeah,
Yeah.
righto. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and certainly we have received further correspondence from the Queensland Government around the adjustments, and certainly we're just working our way through what those additional amounts are.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Taylor,
Sorry, I've got another question, if you don't mind.
please go ahead.
On page 49, it has the Redford Road, the Mount Moffat Road and the Begona Road, but it also has them listed down below again, so it's in there twice. Is there any reason for that? So the 356, the 650 and the 700, they're also down the bottom of the page?
Through the chair, there are actually two funding streams, and I think what's actually happened with this project, and I'm happy to take the question on notice so that we make sure we've got the total amount, but what you'll find is that we're using the Transport Infrastructure Development Scheme money of 650,000 and matching it with the Roads to Recovery funding of 650,000 to make a total project.
So there's two lots of money,
Yeah.
two pots of money?
That's right.
Okay, yep, that's all
That's
I have.
right.
Thank you. Happy to
Okay,
move.
you're happy to move,
Yeah.
Councillor Taylor?
I'd like to move that council receive and note the monthly financial report for the period ending the 31st of July 2022.
We have a second, Councillor Ladbroke. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0.
So page 56, I'll just double check that. Yeah.
Okay, page 56, 13.1, wheelchair-friendly spaces. Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I move that council receive and note the report.
Okay, do we have a second, Councillor Burkett? Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I think it's a great initiative. We can get some seating to accommodate from every person, every walk of life. So I think this is great for every little community. So I think it'll be duly accepted by the community.
Yeah. So do we have righto, so this is going to be completed by local area directors, I see there.
Look, through the chair, you did
As
ask,
in-
did ask for the information to be supplied to council around what spaces we have that could be accessible spaces, and certainly what the list aims to do is saying, hey, look, this is certainly the potential locations. There still is potentially a shortage of these locations around the region. The reality is you do have a budget every year that goes to street furniture, etc., which could easily be expanded to make sure that any replacements are accessible replacements under the current budget, rather than just a like for like, if that makes sense.
I'm just wondering whether the mover would consider having there that some wording that it be considered, this list in, not saying necessarily a budget, but considered as part of delivering areas locally or something to So it's not just receive a note and then nothing ever happens. Does the mover have any appetite to add anything to the resolution? That we keep this as a document that we move forward with?
Otherwise, it just ends. That's what you're saying. There you
Yeah.
go.
Would you have any wording, CEO, that would
Maybe
move
so-
it?
some sort of report come back or something?
So through the chair, given you do have a budget for street furniture, it might be relatively small, but you do have a replacement program. But so suggestion of wording could be that council receive and note the report, and B, that accessible furniture or that wheelchair-friendly spaces be considered as part of standard purchasing or standard replacement programs for I don't know, high-profile sites or something like that. So what you're really saying is that whenever the organisation goes to purchase or replace street furniture, is that they consider about accessibility as part of that. So I'm just saying that receive and note the report. Receive and note the report.
That wheelchair-friendly furniture be
replacement
considered for replacement.
for high profile as standard as part of standard replacement a standard replacement program. That means is use the current budget and make it more accessible. It's include those accessibility options as part of your standard replacement programs. And so, in other words, is it just make it business as usual? Is incorporating accessibility? That makes sense. Whichever.
Wheelchair-friendly furniture replacement. Oh, well, it's not replacement of wheelchair-friendly furniture. Wheelchair-friendly furniture to be considered as part of,
Standard replacement program.
yeah, because we're not replacing it. Wheelchair-friendly furniture to be considered as part of any standard replacement program.
So it's up to the mover. What would the mover like to?
Yeah, no, I'm happy with that. Receive and note the report, and
Oh, that's not going to make sense. Oh, Kel's got it.
and investigate, well, no, wouldn't.
To be considered as a
Consider.
part.
Consider.
Consider wheelchair-friendly furniture, it's already got considered, isn't it?
Yeah,
So, no, that's right, yeah. The council receive and note the report, and council consider wheelchair-friendly furniture, consider wheelchair-friendly furniture to be,
part of any.
consider wheelchair-friendly furniture as part of any standard replacement program.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Please go ahead, councillor
So when
Taylor.
we're saying standard replacement, that means there'll be no new.
When,
I mean, the replacement will be new, but you're not thinking of any new sites or any new,
I think they've got them listed there, but haven't they?
yeah, but that's not what that says.
Yeah. Look, through
Or
the
new
chair,
projects.
I don't think
I think-
you can put it's any standard
Mr. Mayor, I think-
replacement or renewal program or something like the words to that effect. Is because I just don't think we have a separate budget.
Yeah, I mean, we might be able to
Yep.
go for a grant
Yes,
or
absolutely.
something.
Mayor,
Yep.
I would, Mr Mayor, any new facility or that was put would have to meet wheelchair. This is basically saying upgrading what we've got there, isn't it?
Yes, it's
Yeah,
basically saying.
if you're putting a new one in at Campbell's Park, you would have to have the wheelchair.
Yeah, I get that,
standard.
but this replacement just meant, well, you know, when something needs replacing,
Yeah.
you're just going to replace it, so you're not going to
So
put
it could
one.
be a long time away.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
Kel's added or renewal program on the bottom, so that probably
That'll do.
Yes.
yeah, that's fine. You
Yes.
consider wheelchair-friendly furniture.
Because there should be grants out for that sort of stuff.
Yes.
I'm happy with that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy as the seconder.
Righto, so we have a mover and a seconder. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion?
that consider what, well, that doesn't make sense now. Do we need council in front of the number two?
Oh, that council can-
consider, yeah, we need, sorry, Cal, we changed it around.
Okay, so is the mover happy with that?
Yeah, I'm
And
happy.
the seconder happy with that? I'll speak to this. I do think it's very important. I don't think anyone realises what it's like to have that disability of being in a wheelchair unless they're actually living it. And the feedback I've had from people is it does affect in, different ways. And if we can have more wheelchair-friendly furniture, also getting the feedback from the users of this on what they actually want. So I do believe that has happened locally in the different areas, and I'd like to see more of that in the future. But this is just giving council's approval if this motion is passed on what we would like to see, to consider all people in the community and what they can benefit from. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Then we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Okay, I think 64. 13.2, Queensland Rail sale of surplus property, 103 Alice Street, Mitchell. Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move that council further investigate the purchase of this property in Mitchell. Does that sound right? Maybe
In what way, Jeffrey?
investigate it.
The purchase.
Okay.
Further investigate the negotiations with Railway with view of purchasing this property in Mitchell. Does that sound right? Something, I don't know how to word it, but
Yep, so through the chair, just from a report perspective, obviously, we don't know what the valuation is of
No.
the property at this point.
Through you, Madam CEO.
Yeah.
We don't know what the valuation. We did actually ask state government, essentially is the person selling it, for a valuation. They were unable to supply that as they still have some work to go. That they'll have to realign the lot. They're still a little way off it. I'm not sure if there's something in the background that may be happening with it. It's usually you'll do a lot arrangement or realignment before you sell the property. So I don't know if there's already agreement in line, but they do offer, because it's the transfer of one government from one government department, they offer it to us if we have any operational needs for the building.
So through the chair is what, whilst the recommendation is that council note the officer's report, just in relation to what the councillor's working through, is our next step to express interest in the purchase of the property?
I just trying to, if we just receive a note, the officer report down the tracker to come back and see if we want to buy it, well, I'm suggesting we look at buying it. I don't,
Yes.
when it becomes available, if we're going to get the first,
Yes, and so is
I don't know how to word it right.
and
but-
through the chair, is the formal process for that is that we go back to the Department of Resources and indicate our interest?
Absolutely. So
Okay.
in this instance, we would go back to the department, indicate our interest, and then we wouldn't necessarily be committing to anything.
No.
Just expressing interest and saying, hey, look, operationally we could use that land.
Okay, well, we've got three councillors, so we'll start with Councillor Hancock and then Burkett and then Taylor.
I was last, Mr Mayor.
Okay, righto.
Oh,
Well,
well-
if you know the order, you can do it in the order that you want to.
Yeah. And I didn't even click my
Righto.
hands. Deputy Mayor, are you interested in, like, potentially for workers' accommodation sort of thing? Yeah, because I've been thinking about this. I didn't know whether it'd be just easy.
It says there we'll give the first offer on it.
Yeah.
Before it goes open market, so I'm just trying to generate a way of giving the staff to go ahead
Yep.
and
yep.
start, not buy it, but get that.
Yeah,
Otherwise in 3 months' time, we'll be coming back again.
No,
It
no,
might
fair-
be 3 months, but
Fair enough there, but I didn't know whether to just leave it for the open market so that the community had an option to buy it, but we're a long way off that by the sound of it, but we don't necessarily have to commit to that part of it today anyway, do it just...
no, I'm not saying we'll buy it, just further investigate, like,
Because I know the need for housing, and I know the house, it's a very strong house, and like,
hey,
there's no dramas with it, but it's been sitting vacant for a long time, and
That was my question, it's not rented?
no, it hasn't been rented in a long time ago, mate, 10 years or probably.
that's near the railway.
Yeah, straight across from St Pat's. And it is a good house. And the last one, similar to that, got shifted from the state. Like, it would be snapped up, I'd reckon, but Yeah, I just hate to see we tied up if we haven't got a need when the community might want to buy it, sort of thing. But that's a long way off.
The
But
council might want it for stuff.
Okay, who's the next person? Councillor Hancock?
Yeah, so my question was along the lines of Councillor Burkett's question as well, and I guess that's my concern is if it looks like council snapping up the property when it could go out to community. Right now, do we have a need for staff housing in Mitchell?
Through the chair, I'd have to take that on notice. Why is because I've actually prepared a whole lot of information for councillors, which you'll get on the 7th of September, which will incorporate all of that information. My understanding is we've got a number of private rentals in Mitchell. We don't necessarily have a specific demand for staff housing right at this very point, but certainly we could have in the near future.
Wouldn't hurt to
Councillor
get the
Mesmer.
price anyway. Wouldn't
That's
hurt to
what I'm
get the
saying.
price.
I'm not against what everyone's saying, but I'm not saying we buy it.
No, no, no.
You're
Investigate
just
it.
saying through the chair.
Yeah,
The next step would be to.
Third
No.
question?
Councillor, did you?
All right, yeah, mine was a rental.
Have you got another question?
Well, just on relation to Councillor McMullen come back. So what I'm concerned, if we investigate it, don't we hold up the process of being able to get it? Like if we through you, Mr. Mayor, if we go and say we're not interested, it will go to open market. Is that the process?
I believe that it will go to open market. From the conversations, through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe through conversations I had with the department selling the house, that was their intention, was to go to open market. That's the only information they were able to give me. Again, I did ask for a valuation, and they were unable to do that at that stage.
So would it hold up the process if we do an expression of interest? So it will hold it back for us.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there is always going to be a hold-up period when we wait for a council report meeting, or it will hold up the process, but as to how long, it's hard for me to comment.
So, through the chair, and in answer to that is if we express interest, we are first in the line. So we would have to actually go through a process whereby we back out of that for the state to not deal with us
If
further.
the council,
So-
you know, if the council don't want to do it, I'm quite happy.
Well, I
They
just
can vote one way or the other.
Vote one way, and if they don't want it, well.
Now, but we're just doing questions there. So
Yeah,
has
just
anybody got another question?
Yeah, just to be a bit of devil's advocate, just going on the council, one staff member just moved into a council house. This house is a better
In better
house than
condition.
the one that is getting rented by a new employee of council. So, maybe if we do happen to purchase down the track, offload the other one, which would probably be more affordable to a first home buyer or something like that. But
Right.
also, we just got to remember when we've spoken about it.
But Councillor Burkett, is this a question or are
No.
you in the debate?
Well,
Just, you can only ask a question, so if it's not a question, then because I'm happy to second that motion, and then we can get into the debate. Okay, so does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just think if council's interested, we'd let them know in the early stages, excuse me, and, if, once they've worked out valuations and that, then it can come straight back to council, whereas if we just receive a note, the officer's report, well, down the track, it'll have to come back to council again. If we're interested, we put it out there now, and if not, well, yeah.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the motion? Councillor Hancock.
Mr. Mayor, I totally understand where Councillor McMullen's coming from. For me, I just think that I'd like to see this property go out to the open market in Mitchell to try and help with the housing crisis in Mitchell.
Okay, I'll speak for the motion. The reason I'm supporting that is because I don't ever find that Queensland Rail is easy to deal with. So I believe that we can be a conduit. If council don't need the house, we can put it out to the public. I believe that hopefully if we get our systems in order, we can be easier to deal with than, Queensland Rail. And if the majority of councillors want to make the house available to the general public for sale or something, we can do that if we secure it. I think the number one thing is the quickest route to actually getting the house, and I believe council finding out the price and see if it's workable is the quickest way for us to get it to the public. or if there's a need, remember every house that council uses for their own staff actually takes pressure off what else is available. So I really think that this is not a decision today either to purchase it or to keep it for a council house. This is actually trying to get it as quickly as possible if it's workable for, the benefit of council and the people of Mitchell. Does anyone else wish to speak against the motion or for the motion?
I've got a question.
Please go ahead.
Is that me?
Yeah.
Right. Through the chair to the CEO. Do we need additional houses for council staff in Mitchell?
Look, through the chair, the answer, apologies that it's a bit ambiguous, is the fact is we may in the short term. So I don't think, based on what I've seen, is that we have we've managed to house all our current vacancies. However, we could have further vacancies, 1 or 2, and if they are from outside, if they're employed from outside the area, and I'm thinking, and where I'm thinking is in our rural lands area, etc., is that they may need accommodation. But we haven't firmed that up. But we're within a short period of time of ascertaining what our needs are within the organisation. But we may need at least one house.
Okay.
Thank you. And I just have a follow-up.
Please go ahead.
I can't really see clearly into the chamber, but it's Gav in there, obviously.
Yes, yeah, through the chair it is.
Yeah, thanks. So Gav, just so I'm clear, this report states that Queensland Rail is just testing the water to see if council wants to buy the property, but they themselves are going through the process to publicly list it for sale.
Yeah, with all through you, Mr. Mayor, with all sales on a government level, when it comes to state, part of the process is to advertise it to other government departments to test that market before going to the general public. It's listed as a surplus, so they don't have the requirement for that property anymore, but they want to see if there's any other government departments, including council, if they have that interest.
Okay. Thanks very much, Gav. And then finally, Mayor, if I can, just to the mover, Councillor McMullen, what do you want council to investigate? What's to come back to us for further consideration?
The costing.
Right.
Then to do what?
See if we're going to purchase it.
Oh, I see.
We wait 6 months. We could wait 3 months and then come back and say, do we want it?
But to purchase a, Councillor McMullen, then to list it publicly for sale or to hold on to it?
Hold on to it.
Oh, I see. Right.
But to be fair, that's not a decision for today.
No.
The decision is to find the price out. Yeah. Councillor Burkett.
I agree with everyone's comments, actually, both sides, because at the end of the day, it would be good to get this house available in town, because at the moment it's not. So if doing this puts the pressure on Queensland Rail to lift the game, because we know we've had struggles before, but I think what I was going to say before, we need to make sure we're looking after our existing assets too. So if this one, like I said, it's got less maintenance, we can offload one that is getting rented by a privately.
Yes.
Private as a private resident, yeah. So I'll be happy either way. Like I think this getting on the market's going to solve some issues, but I understand if we need staff, this would be a perfect house. Maintenance-wise, it's going to be a lot better than some of the ones we've already got. So if this means just getting it moving quicker and it's going to come back for us to make a decision down the track, I'm happy to support it.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the motion?
I just have one further question.
Please go ahead.
Just to the mover and it would be to you as seconder, Mayor. Would it not be clearer to have in the resolution the council further investigate the valuation and price of this property in Mitchell with Queensland Rail? Because I'm a decision maker and that wasn't clear until I asked you, Councillor McMullen, what the intent of the resolution was. So the community that read this they won't understand what council is wanting to do, which is the price to come back for further consideration.
Just got to add
That's
further,
there,
to
isn't
come back for further consideration.
Reasonable.
But you wouldn't have investigate, you'd seek.
It's up to the mover, what the mover wishes to be moving.
It
What did I
explains
have up
everything.
there originally?
Investigate the potential
Potential
purchase.
purchase.
And to investigate the potential thingamabob, you got to find find the price. That's just
Yeah.
in the game, isn't it?
I'll just leave it as I had it, whatever the further, whereas council further investigate the potential purchase of this property in Mitchell from Queensland Rail, or with Queensland Rail, whatever.
Right, and I'm happy with that too. So now, does anyone wish to speak against or for the motion? Does the mover wish to sum up?
Mr Mayor, I'd just like to point out a couple of things. In this open report that anyone can read, it clearly says council has the option to purchase the property before it's listed on the open market, should council require the property. So if council decide that we might be interested, it'll come back to, a price will come back to council before it goes out to the open market. And if we think it's not, we don't want it, then it'll go out to the open market. The reason I've changed this, if we just go, council note the officers' report, well, the officers can't do much until they still can't, but it gives them the opportunity to go straight in and look at it.
Okay, we're going to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
All those against? 7-1, if I can call for a division.
Who was that? I didn't look, Mr.
Joe.
Page 68.
Item 13.3, conversion to freehold lot 115 on SP 302014, Warrego Highway.
Mr Mayor, I'm happy to move it, but I think Officer Gavin would like to say something. Before I move it, Gav, you got something you want to say?
Yeah, I just have some additional information that I wasn't aware of when this report went up. We've been working with the applicant fairly well on a few little things. There's some environmental things that we're working on. The other thing that we found, that there's actually a building. It seems like a telecommunication tower of some sort. We think it might be related to 4ZR. There's no
Up there,
NBN.
NBN.
Axicom is the owner. We found out that information. We're having trouble getting onto Axicom. There's no formal agreement with council or the state government that we're aware of over that. Although it's just something we needed to consider. I think it would be a recommendation that it'd be in our best interest and in the applicant's best interest for us to formalise that agreement with Axicom, because it is still being used. I've seen changes when I found out about it. I've seen changes to the infrastructure there in the last 12 months just through satellite photos. So it is still being used. I'm not sure what impact it has on the community. Someone mentioned it might be 4ZR.
No,
A 4ZR tower.
That's the NBN one.
Okay, it's the
Because I've
NBN.
just recently hooked up to NBN at home through Advanced Communications, and they told me the tower's out there on the hill. I'm assuming it's the same, not far from the microwave tower there somewhere.
Yeah. So we are still doing our due diligence in that. It's just that I wasn't aware that there was. We know that Telstra have infrastructure further north, slightly further north, and there is an easement that runs through the paddock that we're talking about. It's just that we're just not sure what that other
So
thing's being used for.
you're suggesting we lay it on the table for further information?
Yeah.
I think so. I think.
Can I ask a question? So where's, like, if we're going to do up Campbell's Park, is any of this, do we need to consider this, or how far away is it, or where, is any of that going to be affected in any way, or?
Through you, Madam CEO. The way I understand it is the Campbell Parks upgrade is on the road reserve, which is a couple of hundred metres west, or maybe even a kilometre west, of this lot. I can get it pulled up on, or I can send an email it to councillors.
Show a map.
Show a map, yeah. If
Mr Mayor, I can tell you that where the zoo was, I believe, is private land, and that's in between it.
Oh, yeah, that's in between.
In
So
between.
that tower that's right on the top of Campbell's Park's not the tower we're talking about. It's another tower, is it?
Not the one on Campbell's Park, no.
Yeah, there's one there's got, because I don't know whether we know who owns that one either.
Actually, on Campbell's Park,
Yeah, the one at the
block, no, it's been there for years, but
So therefore, there's a private property between it, so it's not going to affect Campbell's Park, really.
I don't believe so, but I will check that and have that in the next report.
I'll move we lay it on the table for further information.
All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0.
Thank you.
No, well, I don't think we get it today. I don't know.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Morning.
Morning.
Very spiffy in your tie, Steve.
So where we're talking about is a little couple of blocks away. It's just there. But yeah. All right. So through the chair, this one. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Item 14.1, Maranoa Christmas Street Party 2022. I'd like to declare conflict of interest on C5, Maranoa Christmas Street Party, post-event report.
It's 14.
14.1.
Yeah, righto. Maranoa Christmas Street Party 2022. The declaring councillors, myself, Tyson Golder, person with the interest of myself, particularly I own a business on the main street of Roma, Golders, McDowell Street. Type of conflict, declarable conflict of interest. I'll leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on. Is there any other conflicts? Okay, if I can ask whether the Deputy Mayor can take over.
Okay, the mayor's left the room. Item 14.1, Maranoa Christmas Street Party. Is there any information the staff officers or the director of the officers would like to give us, or before we go to the discussions? Or?
Just through the chair, just as per the report, the Christmas street party in 2021 was very successful. There's really strong support from local businesses and the community to see it happen again in 2022. So the local development officers have spoken with local businesses, regarding their support. So we've done a fair bit of research within the local community regarding it. Just as per report, we recommend that it happen again in 2022, similar format to 2021, so early December in the main street of Roma, so down McDowell Street.
So my question, so probably to you, CEO, we don't have anything in the budget at this point, do we?
Yes.
Well, I'm just trying to, I haven't read it properly, I just,
So through the chair, we
page what, sorry? Okay, I didn't look in,
was it 20,000?
15.
15.
Yes.
no, that's fine, I hadn't read the report, I just picked my paper there. 15's been allocated. Anyone else got any questions? Councillor Hancock, sorry.
Through you, Chair. Just thinking about the officers, your opinion on not having the date in this report at this time, simply so that maybe we could actually have that, part of that conversation with the organising group that comes back to the table. I'd just like to, it is fairly early, and not that I want to push it right back. I just wonder whether it'd be rather than council today setting the date, whether that would be a good opportunity to have a discussion with the organising committee of the event to see whether they still think that that date is the best date, and how that might affect if we left the date out for today for it to come back to nail the date.
Yep. I guess from through the chair, just from an organising perspective, we did want to get on top of it quite early, just in terms of organising sponsorship and all of that sort of thing. So having a date, I guess, assists in us, getting prepared quite early. We didn't have a lot of time last year to pull it together. So, we were just trying to be, I guess, as organised as possible. With regards to the date, to us, that's the date that makes the most sense. A lot of some of the feedback that we received in terms of Christmas shopping, a lot of people are already doing their Christmas shopping by that date. So pushing that back later in December. Sometimes people have already done their Christmas shopping then before the actual event. So that was some feedback that we did receive prior to the event last year. That was holding it, early December, so people could actually do their Christmas shopping. Otherwise, sometime, by the time the event has happened, they've already done it. Also, just with regards to staffing as well, so just being able to facilitate it. That date also works in terms of staffing requirements as well, just taking into consideration holidays, school holiday program as well, which the LGOs run, also preparations for Australia Day, all of those sorts of things. So I guess from a council perspective, that was the date that sort of made the most sense, as well as taking into consideration some of the feedback that we did receive from businesses and the community as well previously.
Okay, so if you've can I respond?
Yeah.
If you've done that feedback, that's that's okay for me. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't sitting here setting the date and not having to at least have that conversation with the community. So, yeah.
Who was next? I didn't. Councillor Taylor, please.
My hand's up too.
Okay, I got Councillor.
You can't see it, but I'm just telling you it's up.
Well, my question too was, have you asked the business houses then? Because the raffle gets drawn on the first of that night as well, doesn't it? So as far as people, putting their entries in and so forth. So if you've asked the business houses if they're happy with that, that's fine. I just thought a week or 10 days in, that would have been, a bit of a fluff about the raffle thing. But my other question was, how many councillor representatives do you want on your committee?
Through the chair, I think we're open. The more the people that want to be involved in it.
It's just that we would probably have to name them today. That's all. I was just asking.
Yeah,
how many you wanted.
Sky's the limit. However many want to be involved is
Do
fine.
we have to name them, CEO?
Well, through the chair, if certainly just for your own completeness, you can.
Yeah. Okay.
Councillor Burgett.
Just from a regional perspective, Bags put theirs earlier too, on the 2nd, so it's on the Friday night, which is always used to be the Monday night, first weekend. So it's not too much earlier, but I think in a way, like part of me is thinking, oh, geez, it'd be good the Santa, down the track a bit, but it probably kick-starts off December having it, like gives everyone that boost to push through December. But the raffle one does concern me because you could leave it longer, but you want to have it on the night, but if you have it longer, it might. Yeah. But I think in a way it's a good kickstart to December if it's on early. But
Councillor O'Neill, you wanted to ask something, and then I'll go to Councillor Hancock.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just a couple of points. One is to Councillor Hancock raised in terms of the date. I wonder if the way around this may be just for today is that whoever wants to move this, the point one could be host the 2022 Maranoa Christmas Street Party on either Thursday the 1st or 8th of December, subject to consultation with stakeholders and the organising committee. And that way we are involving whoever wants to be involved that may be external from council in that particular decision. and it gives some certainty to staff that it's either that day or the other, one or the other. But we are engaging with, the broader business community as to what is the best day, because some of the feedback that I'd received was that it was a week too early, and I think it would be prudent to have that conversation, at least with the people that volunteer their time, and we can all name them. There's a half dozen of them that have been involved for the last couple of years in the event. And just to point out, whilst I think it was Councillor Hancock and myself were the council reps, it really just wasn't us. Councillor McMullen, you came to nearly every committee meeting, and I think at one point, Councillor Guthrie, you were there too, I think. So it's open to all councillors to be involved, and as Natalie said, the more the merrier. What's that, sorry? Or Councillor, was it Councillor Taylor?
Councillor Hancock, did you have something else?
Yeah, I think that there's you note in the report that there's some work to be done around some ideas about the Christmas Shop Local campaign, and so I think that there is some ideas that come out. It might not have to be drawn on that night. It could go through, and it could be a Christmas Eve draw or something. There could be some other ideas that can come from that, so we can use that night as a shopping, but also make that lengthen out. So whilst I think that needs the work around it, I'm okay with, if the staff have done the community feedback. I'm okay with either of those dates. I just wanted to make sure it didn't look from the community's point of view that we're setting the date and then going and telling them.
Councillor Guthrie.
Just with regard to dates, I just noticed in the diary that Friday the 9th is term 4 ends in Queensland, that's state government schools. Often there will be functions held on the Thursday the 8th, as in staff farewells and all sorts of things. And I'm also mindful that then the non-state government schools finish on Friday the 2nd, after which many will scoot for holiday early. So I think just to
They
really
finish
be
on the 2nd.
they are a week earlier.
Bloody Catholics.
I'm
Sorry
saying
if I offended any Catholics out there.
sorry, I'm saying non-education Queensland. They finish the week earlier,
Yeah.
and also any schools
I can
further
imagine where
than
that's
basically our area, they finish a week early. State government schools finish the week earlier, as in Western schools. So you're starting, if you get into that later date, the possibility of losing some of your prospective, those people who might attend.
I think that's a good day.
I'm just making it as an
Very good day.
observation.
I've just got a question to the staff. There was no issues last year, because it's basically the same week, isn't it?
Correct,
Exactly
yes.
the same week as last year, so.
I don't believe so. Haven't
No,
had any
no, that's-
issues come to the table regarding that date last year.
So, any further questions? Councillor
No,
Taylor?
I'm happy to move,
Yeah.
but I'd just like to know what councillors would like to go on the committee. Does anybody want to put their hand up so we can name them in this?
I'm happy to go.
Councillor Hancock?
I'm happy to, Councillor Taylor.
So,
Anybody else?
and as councillor O'Neill, I said, I went, like, anyone's welcome to go.
Yeah,
You might not get to
That's
every
right.
meeting, yeah.
And I'll just come when I can, I
Yeah.
think too, and you
We just
Jack will
haven't
too.
moved the
Yeah,
motion.
so-
I will do too. We just haven't moved the motion yet.
So,
So,
okay.
yeah, but appreciate.
Well, they're
you
going to
trying
put them in the motion, I suppose.
Look, just for completeness, through the chair, just if we can move and second the motion, and
Yeah,
then you
righto.
can call for those nominations, and then
Okay,
we can make
righto.
sure that we.
Have we have a
incorporate
mover? Councillor Taylor, you
Yeah.
said you'd move it?
Yeah, do you want me to move what I've got here
those. Yes.
in front of me? That colour just moved me up, I can't see it now. I'd like to move that Council 1 hosts the 2022 Maranoa Christmas Street Party on the 1st of December 2022. Yes, full stop, yeah. Number 2, approve McDowell Street to be closed from Quinton Street to Charles Street from 2:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. on Thursday, the 1st of December 2022 for the Maranoa Christmas Street Party. 3, seek additional sponsorship opportunities for the 2022 Maranoa Christmas Street Party. 4, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to sign funding applications and/or funding agreements relative to the 2022 My Maranoa Christmas Street Party as applicable. And 5, form and organising committee comprising of council representatives. You don't want them named, did you say?
Through the chair, if we've informally named them, we can put them in the
Yeah, we can, yeah,
recommendation.
yeah, that's, CEO just said we had to do it when we moved the
Oh,
resolution.
So happy to do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Councillor Hancock and Councillor O'Neill, staff, council staff, community and business representatives, and 6, coordinate a Christmas shop local campaign.
Okay, do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Ladbroke?
So I just got one further question.
Yeah, so,
Before we go to vote, just want to make sure, I'm trying to Google it and I can't come up quick enough. Between Quinton and Charles Street, are we closing it from the lights to the, is it exactly the same as last year?
Club Hotel to the traffic lights.
Yeah.
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 Oh, in front of Mitre 10, well, that's not Charles Street really, is it? But no,
But
We
close.
did block that street off between the club and
Sorry?
Charles Street.
sorry?
We didn't block Charles Street off.
No, but from the Club Hotel corner to the traffic lights.
Toyota.
Oh, well,
Not that
yeah.
makes a difference, but
No, I know what you mean,
like
sorry, yeah.
Charles Street is
From the
closed.
Toyota side, yeah, I understand, okay, that's fine.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
clarify that.
So, any,
Thank you.
okay, anyone else want to speak for or against the motion?
I'd just like to say that, go girls.
Yeah.
I think everybody had a great time last year. You did an amazing job, as you always do when you get together and pull together. So, just let us know if we can help.
Anyone else want to say anything? I'll put it to the motion, all those in favour?
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you. What about 10:10?
We should have nominated councillor Burkett for the food eating contest.
Yeah, I didn't get the job done.
But you could practice and you'll be better the second time.
Yeah, well, I know, second go in.
Change that a bit. That was a bit, that evening thing wasn't real. I mean, I think it should have just been like
Me far away?
pies or hot dogs or
Oh, something Christmassy, but
yeah, like
You mean no carrots?
just crackle,
I just know
pork
no
crackling.
veggies.
The, but that's something we can.
yeah, they can.
Wonder where he is.
We're doing the late now.
Better find.
Yeah,
Last
through
one,
the
isn't
chair, that's where we're at. So, and,
Try ringing him.
Dean's in there yet.
I still think $50,000 is too much for this morning.
I reckon they should be getting only 25.
I don't know.
There we go.
Righto.
If they're going through the, they're going through the livability, because that's what we said they were going to be up
I
to.
was going to say, Deputy Mayor,
Yeah,
we
but
probably
it
should
can't
have
be
adjourned.
livability because it's an event.
Just so we're clear, councillor McMullen, have you adjourned the meeting?
You probably should.
I'll adjourn the meeting then for now, so.
Okay, L1.
Mr Mayor, before we start, I'd just like to apologise my comments about Catholics. It wasn't my intent to be derogatory. It was a bit of jest, a long-standing thing I do, but I do apologise. It wasn't my intent to be
Okay.
rude. Thank you.
Righto. L1, Queensland Music Festival proposal.
Oh, L1. What
Or is
paper are
that,
we on?
or is there another one?
page 3.
The late open.
Swinging in the breeze, that one.
I've got a question on this one. So we really haven't got the detailed proposal of what they want to do.
I think they want to know if we're going to give them the 50 grand.
They are just waiting on council to give them in principle support so they can come out to the region and explore the options of where the venue could possibly be, how many hotels we have, what facilities we have, before they bring the official proposal for council to consider the cost and whether we go ahead with this.
Yeah.
Mr Mayor.
Yeah, please go ahead, councillor Hancock.
I just note that in our last resolution, we moved to lay it on the table for this to be at a briefing, and it was meant to be at a briefing, and we ran late at the briefing. We never got it to a briefing. So I would actually like to lay this on the table for it to come to a briefing. I think this is a lot of money and it's a big decision. I think council needs to know a bit more about it.
Through the chair, you know, you have had actually a briefing with with Simon from the Queensland Music Festival, the organiser, in relation
Yes.
to the project.
Yes, I do know that. But at the last council meeting, it was laid on the table. It's part of the resolution for it to come to a briefing.
Yeah, and through the chair, your issue is that you don't have a single bucket for $50,000. That was really a briefing issue. Is not the proposal itself, it's really how would you fund it. if
Well,
you
that's
wanted
right,
to
and
do
that's
it.
probably what the discussion needs to be about, and what other events are happening at that same time at that same year around that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the Queensland Music Festival don't need a commitment from council today to put that money up. They simply need a commitment to council to say, yes, we are interested, and to come out and actually do a proper, full investigation of our region to then bring back the official proposal to council with the proper amount of money that is required. And then council can either say, yes, we will commit to that, or no, sorry, we can't do it.
Fair enough.
They are
Council-
running out of time very quickly, and it's getting to a
Councillor
point where
McMullen.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, that was going to be my, I think, the officers and Eels Morris had answered what I was going to ask. I understood they didn't need an answer today, but they do want some sort of indication today so they can progress with it, sorry. I mean, we're not committed, but we can still have a briefing or a discussion before they get here or when they get here to find out where we might find the money. We can probably still have a briefing anyway to say if we decide to go ahead where we find the dollars. But I think it's probably important by the sound of it, we just give them in principle support as of today. And
I'll move that, Mr Mayor.
Well, we've got a motion to lay it on the table.
I just have
Do you have a question?
to ask Manager Neil. In the executive summary, it's about the support for the 2023 event will incorporate a cash contribution. Is that council cash contribution, or is there the opportunity for it to be extended into the wider community for other financial support? Or is this just a one pot of money? Is this just for council as well as in-kind support yet to be finalised?
Yes, so you could, they're open to negotiation. So we can go back to them with our recommendation of how much we believe we can, as a council, can provide, so that if it does come to 50K, that can include our in-kind plus the cash. So 50K with both components in it. There is an opportunity that if council wanted to go that way, to look at partnering with another community group, or even like another organisation, such as maybe one of the big companies within Roma, to see if they wanted to partner and put in a contribution. There is that opportunity as well.
Okay, Councillor Hancock.
Mr Mayor, I'm happy to withdraw my motion laid on the table and move another motion if you like.
Righto. Please go ahead.
I'll just move that council give its in-principle support for the 2023 proposal provided by Queensland Music Festival.
So does the mover wish to put in that, like, there was some concern about doing it when we've got our shows and so forth? Should we not, it's up to you as the mover, put something in that we would, like to not have it on those times because we're at capacity anyway?
Yeah, unfortunately, Mr Mayor, it's in the report that this year that they can't change that date. But I don't know whether to put in here now, but I really think we do need a further, like this resolution will go to the Queensland Music Festival to give them some, they can move ahead. But I think we actually need a briefing, and I think we need a calendar of events for those events that we already know that's going to be happening that year, that's also going to be requiring some council a budget, or asking for council budget. So I actually think that we need to have that. But from what I'm hearing now, this is in principle, and that can all come back to us with all the information to make the final decision.
Yeah, so, but the only thing is, if they could look at a different date.
It's in the report that they can't.
Through you, Mr Mayor, we have had conversations with the Queensland Music Festival, and they can't move the date proposed for the next year's events due to other already locked in events in the trail, but they are very keen to in future will work with us to look at a date that suits our region.
Right, okay. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor McMullen, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0.
Thank you.
We're looking at page 33.
L2, policy for trade-in timing for small motor machines and equipment. I'd like to move that a report be prepared for an upcoming council meeting. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett.
I have a question.
Please go ahead, Councillor Hancock.
I have two questions. One of them is, through you, Mr Mayor, Madam CEO, do we have an existing policy or practice at the moment?
Through the chair, broadly speaking, all of our plant and equipment is under our procurement policy, but we can develop sub-policies sitting under that, like a plant replacement program or something like that. But it is linked to the broader procurement policy.
And my second question then is, because this sounds very, it is very operational, I just wonder whether by putting a policy in place, are we taking away from the director's ability to make that decision based on the machinery at the time, and we're going to have a solid, this is what must happen once it gets to these hours, it must be replaced? Is that the intent of the policy?
Through the chair, I think the report's talking about just optimum changeover. So in a policy setting, you're basically outlining the principles that you want the organisation to follow. Through the chair, just certainly, Mr Mayor, you can answer this report, but you're clearly saying is that you've got highlighted a number of elements here that you want the policy to capture, which is trade-in value, lower changeover costs, utilisation, and fit for purpose equipment.
Yeah, so we're not putting a direct, it's got to be this many hours or this
Well,
many.
it even got down here, the policy should also include the importance of keeping a history of regular servicing, and also provide an option for a business case to be presented to purchasing is to go outside of the policy. So just so they want to keep a machine for a particular reason, they can. So it's got the flexibility. But the feedback that I get from staff is that our machines are tired and old, and we're spending money on them, and we're getting breakdowns where we shouldn't be spending any money and get a higher resale value on the machine. So that's what's driving this.
Yeah, and so I fully understand that. So part of that report would be some of that detail, I guess, to come back to council so we can actually see those numbers as well.
And a lot of, depending if it's a smaller amount, we don't, but a lot of the plant we do actually purchase. So if we want to purchase it more often, we put a policy in, then I'm sure it can happen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I've moved it. We've got a seconder. Anyone wish to speak to it? I do think that we've got some feedback. I've had feedback from staff. We've got some of our communities not looking as tidy as they should be. I think one of the things is we've sort of need to change how we do things and have machines that never really cause any problem except for basic maintenance. And I don't think we're doing that at the moment. So I think this getting a report about this will be very, very positive. Does anyone else wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. L3, Southwest Hospital and Health Service proposal for helicopter landing site. Councillor Ladbroke.
I'd like to move that council nominate a manager for regional planning and development or delegate as council representative on the Southwest Hospital and Health Service Roma helicopter landing site. 2, pledge continued support for the project.
Okay, we have a seconder, councillor McMullen. Any opposition?
Just got a quick question.
Please go ahead, councillor Hancock.
For you, Mr Mayor, who is our Manager of Regional Planning and Development?
Danielle Penn.
Danielle,
Danielle, okay, thank you.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak for the motion? I'll speak for the motion. We had a meeting about getting a landing pad, a helicopter site for the hospital. I believe it'll be a better patient experience. It will need all stakeholders to be involved to make it happen. This is just progressing that and seeing if we can keep the really large wheels going to find obviously a spot with Southwest Health and obviously Lifelight and everyone involved. And that could be a very good thing for the future of our hospital in Roma and patients. Does anyone else wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0.
Page 36.
L4, unsightly allotments and working with affected residents. I'd like to move that a report be prepared for an upcoming council meeting. Do we have a seconder? Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it?
I just have a question.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah, well, we'll go with Councillor Taylor, Hancock and O'Neill.
So when you say a report be prepared for upcoming meeting, are you asking for a policy on this?
Yeah, correct.
And I just don't know how that's going to work exactly. Could you explain it a bit?
Yeah, so basically where that the CEO would have the power if we had a policy that if it is actually more cost effective in total cost for council to go and clean up the allotment, working on the basis that there is agreement from the resident that they will do that, that they can be paid for the scrap costs of it. But it's actually the local laws and so forth will all still work. None of that will change. It's just if they wish to do a deal and it's a deal where it's actually more cost effective than council rather than all of the staff time and that, and these things can go on for years and years, that they that the CEO can just say, yes, do a deal with the resident if the resident wishes to do a deal and clean the whole thing up. So this is really focused on long-term issues that have been festering a long time in the community. Okay, so what was the next question? Councillor Hancock.
So when you say do a deal with the resident, what does that mean? Does that mean that they're going to pay anything for?
No, that means that council will go in at its cost and clean up everything, and then if there's any scrap value that can be ascertained, then the resident will get the scrap value. But the deal is that we clean up the yard and it's back to a compliance state.
So we're going
all in one.
So council's going to go in, clean the yard up at no cost to the resident, and then give the resident the money for the scrap metal.
On the basis that it all gets cleaned up, where it is actually more cost effective for council than what they're doing now, because we're spending an enormous amount of time and resources, legal fees, all of that on getting people compliant, and this would be where it's actually cheaper to do that than feed the money to lawyers and all of our staff's time. Okay, Councillor O'Neill, do you have a question?
I do. It may have been answered, but just so I'm perfectly clear, you want a policy to come back that will embed in it that the CEO, through authority of council, can decide that if there's an unsightly yard, the ratepayer will pay for the cleanup, and that the cost of that will not be put on subsequent rate notices of the owners of that property. Is that correct?
Correct, but it's not just any, it's long-standing compliance issues that we have in the Maranoa. And the second part of the deal is where it is more cost-effective to council than what council will spend on doing the compliance and staff time involved with that. So it's well and truly like where it is more cost effective for council to actually just go and do it and get the yard back to a compliant state. And, you know, this is focused on ones that we have never got back to a compliant state.
So just a couple of extra questions. So the policy will come back for debate at the chamber.
A report to be prepared for an upcoming council meeting.
And that will include the policy?
Yeah, I would imagine what the report would be is how can we do it if council wishes to do it.
And my final question then is when other councillors raised concerns around unsightly yards recently, and I can't remember whether that was at a briefing session or a council meeting, but I was under the impression, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there was an agreement around the table that we would in fact have a briefing session to take councillors through what the rules and regulations are that currently stand for councillors to act on unsightly yards. Is that happening?
Well, that's a question for the CEO.
Look, through the chair, my understanding from community safety is that they've brought these kind of matters to you a couple of times over the last, 12 months. You do have some, it's singular, it's, probably less than 5 issues which you've been running the cost of for over a decade. And certainly we've exhausted all options. But, certainly we can provide that material that's been provided to councillors and bring it back to another briefing. That's not an issue. But through the chair, what I take when I read the report is, for those cases where all options have been exhausted, it's really how do you incentivise a clean-up of properties, recognising that there are a lot of complex issues that sit behind these things, not least a person's compulsivity to keep collecting material. And regardless of the legal situation, your challenge is that you've got to influence an individual or essentially resume a property in order to clean something up, which is a lose-lose for the region. And how do you come up with something that potentially might help incentivise some very, very difficult long-term cases? But certainly happy to bring it to briefing, and certainly there's a request here to bring back a report.
Councillor McMullen?
Mr Mayor, I'm just wondering if in this report we can be given any of the figures or the amount of money
We've expended.
that we've expended already in the last 6.5 years or whatever I've been here, and how much of that has gone on onto the rates notices to try to be reclaimed.
Yeah.
And equally, Mr Mayor, in line with what Councillor McMullen's raised, is it possible to also include in the report that'll come back more information to what the CEO's just spoken about in reaching the dead end, if you like, because that's news to me, and it'd be really important information when considering policies decisions going forward.
Mr Mayor, can I add to that?
Please.
It's not news to us, Councillor. I know it's been discussed in here, one particular item, probably half a dozen times in my 6 years, one particular area, instance, or I don't want to say any names, example.
Yeah, with all due respect, Councillor McMullen, I actually use the singular. It's news to me, not news to us. And so whilst I'm aware of singular issues, I'm not aware of broader issues. So I apologise if you thought I was referring to you. I wasn't. I was talking about myself.
Yep.
Okay, so let's get into the debate.
So through the chair, just to qualify, I actually didn't understand what you were asking for me to include in that report. I've got 2 items here, and obviously you'll vote on the matter. A report, dollars we've expended during the last 6 years, and how much dollars, fines, etc., has gone back on the rate notices. To your point, Councillor O'Neill, I'm not clear about when you talk about a dead end, what you mean there. what is it that
Madam CEO,
information?
you just referenced that we've reached the,
Exhausted all
where we
options.
can't go any further.
Yep, right.
I'd just be, I
Yep.
think for completeness,
Yep.
we need to know how many they are, who
Yep.
they are, what we've done, because I have a different understanding then of what the next steps could be for council in terms of cleaning up
Yep,
those
sure.
allotments.
Just
Yep,
also,
certainly.
if we're
Yep.
putting in that, obviously, staff time costed out, which is a real cost, and also staff emotional impact of having to deal with long-term problems. There's all of these things that need to be considered. Okay, so we have a move and a second. I will speak to the motion. This one is about the community just wants us to fix these issues. They're embarrassed about them. They want them fixed. We need to look at different options, and sometimes we need to go back to how it was done in the past and take some of the issues from that. And this is about the community doesn't want to know why it's not happening. The community just wants it fixed. And this is an opportunity to go down a different approach, not change any of the things we do on a day-to-day basis, but a different approach to try and get a tidy communities. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak against? All for? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. We will break for morning tea back at 11. Start the meeting 11:39. Just to let the public know, there was a briefing for some councillors that happened in the morning tea break, or not in the morning tea, after morning tea, I would imagine. So that's why it's such a long time between breaks.
Yeah, we should announce who the briefing was with, but that's just one thing we've recommended. There's not enough public. We've said in the discussion, there's not enough going out to the public about it.
Righto. Well, that's up to yourselves.
We-
I wasn't in the briefing.
We can't,
Don't have to.
we can't hear you, Councillor McMullen, whatever you just said.
George has turned me off. I'm just saying we should say what the briefing was about, not who the briefing was with.
So the only thing, it wasn't part of a public meeting, Deputy Mayor, so, you, by all means, if...
Like Mr Mayor, we've just told those people they're not doing enough public relations work.
It's not up for us.
Yeah, but anyway, I've got a conflict with that, so I won't be talking about it. So if you want to bring that up as a separate thing, you can at a different time. I was just really saying how long morning tea took. It looks like we've had, nearly an hour for morning tea, so that's all that was about. Okay, moving on to L5, 100% recycling for the Maranoa. I'd like to move that a report be prepared for an upcoming council meeting. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook?
I just have a little bit
Please.
of information, really.
Sure.
When we were at the Bush Council, we actually had a speak about this out there, and they were from LAWMAC, LAWMAC, and I'm not sure if they're in Rockhampton, but it was the Deputy Mayor of Rockhampton that spoke on it, and it was really interesting, and there must be some sort of government body, like local government body or something like that, if you wanted to have a look at that CEO when you're doing the report, because it was really interesting. I thought it was really good.
Okay.
Yeah. If you look up them, if you Google them, you can find them.
Okay, I'll speak to the motion. This is about creating local jobs, doing on-the-curb sorting of material, stopping the need for very, very expensive processing, basically plants. 100% recycling would be that what council would take. It would be an opt-in system that would be for the people that really think we should be recycling. And over time, we see that there's a lot of materials that now you can buy, like plastic fence posts. You can buy many things that we might be able to convert. There's opportunity through the state government for grants to do with being able to find ways to use things that are not viable to be able to be sent away for recycling. And it's working with the non-for-profits and, that sector, as well as, micro, small businesses that would want to take this on. And this could be that it could be a different operator in each of our towns, and it's just a way to reduce things going to landfill, but also opportunity for jobs and employment in our region. So I look forward to getting a report back about that.
Mr Mayor, could I just sort of I'd like to move an amendment, I suppose call it an amendment, to include in the report that we negotiate or discuss with the contractor setting up in Roma. We're but ready to start because this contractor intends taking a lot of these recyclable products that we can't get rid of at the moment. Processing is probably the word. So yeah, to work in conjunction with him.
Yeah. So
in the report, to come into the report.
yeah, that'd be just one part of the report, wouldn't it?
Yeah, involve him in his side.
To ask what what that contractor can do and how they can work from their point of view.
Businesses, do we?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing is, with this contractor, Mr Mayor, setting up here, he intends to start processing a lot of this stuff. Well, that'll make it a lot easier to win the public over, I believe, because at the moment, without that contract, it hasn't started yet, obviously, but at the moment, you've got to send any of those products to the big smokes to get, Toowoomba as the closest,
Councillor Guthrie.
Mr Mayor, can I just extend that too, because at the Bringa Action Group meeting last week, there was discussion about recycling, not just in Roma, but further afield. So could we also consider then, as part of that, not just a contractor in Roma, but also the getting of some of the materials from outside of Roma into Roma to be part of this as well, please?
Yeah. So report be prepared for an upcoming council meeting, including feedback or discussions with the contractor soon to commence in Roma.
I don't know, that's fine.
And other stakeholders in the region.
Yeah, that's good.
That's good.
Mr Mayor, just to extend on that, the Bringa director said him and the Roma director got a good background in waste, and that they're looking into further investigate ways to do things better in the Maranoa and get our dumps up to scratch, which is another good thing as well.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of a side note through you, Mr Mayor, the CEO. The two directors, I never thought would they be aware of this contractor that looks like setting up here, CEO?
If they haven't set up, and through the chair, if they haven't set up and they haven't made contact with council.
No, they've been working with you. Mick Carroll.
Yeah. I thought you might have meant that.
I didn't want to, because he's got that funding, he's just waiting for that.
Certainly, if we've got existing relationships with stakeholders, they're certainly aware of that.
Okay, yeah.
We certainly have done, in relation to the Roma landfill, we've talked to a number of stakeholders at different times around different.
I was just wondering whether they know he's ready to go. Soon, or he's waiting for the Deputy Premier to officially say the funding's there, he's ready to go.
Yeah. So certainly our focus at the moment from an operational perspective is how we move existing tenants out of off-site and how quickly we can do that.
Yeah.
And, again, recognising the need to have a more strategic approach to waste in general.
He's setting up on another facility as well, as you know. So,
So,
Okay. So is the seconder happy with that change? Councillor Ladbroke?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so I'll speak to this. Yeah, this is an opportunity, as I said, that we really can be able to provide curbside pickup very cost effectively, an opt-in system, and it's about what we take, we 100% recycle, and then as new, and I'm sure what's going to happen quite quite rapidly in the future, there'll be other products, or it could be that we actually make things in the Maranoa, which could be another way to go for certain products that don't have a market. So plenty of opportunities. The state government's got a lot of funding available for this. And as it said, we'll talk to all the stakeholders. They might be able to solve some of the issues themselves. But it's about reducing our landfill and reusing products in a circular economy. Does anyone else wish to speak? Then we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
Yes.
9-0. Okay, L6, advocacy for Surat Jetty to be enhanced through improved infrastructure. I'd like to move that a report be prepared for an upcoming council meeting. Do we have a seconder? Yeah, Councillor McMullen, and then we've got Ladbroke and Hancock.
I was seconding the motion, sorry.
Yeah,
Mr. Mayor.
yeah. Seconder, sorry, and then question from Ladbroke and Hancock.
Yeah, I just
Please go
wondered,
ahead.
With the jetty, what did you have in mind to do?
Yeah, just the pylons are a certain level, and then when the river goes up to that height, it has to be taken off. So the idea is, how can we have it more permanent? And just really, this is just about discussions with the relevant state government department about how we can extend it so it doesn't have to be put back on after a large, large flood in the river.
Not when it's super high, but.
Yeah. So it might be how we can do that.
To a certain height, it's got to be taken away.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It comes off.
Yeah, it just
And
goes
it
through.
floats.
Yeah, that's right.
And then it has to get,
It
and then
comes off,
put back on, it just comes off.
comes off naturally, but then you've got to guide it back over the pylons.
Yeah, and you've got to be able to get a crane.
You'd have to get a forklift or, yeah.
No.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Thank
So
you.
it could be as simple as longer pylons that might be able to make that happen, or there might be reasons we can't, but have a talk about it. Okay, now Councillor Hancock.
So my question is what did you want to come back in the report? Because the executive summary says that you want to advocate to the state government about it. Is it just the outcome of that discussion that you want to come back in the report?
Yeah,
is it?
I'm happy to change that to instigate discussions and bring a report back to council after discussions have been concluded.
Through the chair, instigate discussions with the state government.
Yeah,
And
state
the-
government.
Yep.
Or is it undertake? rather
Or
than
undertake, I don't mind.
Undertake
Yep.
discussions.
Then a report be brought back, and it might be that we have got funding in the past for certain things. They might look at that through a grant process or start talking to them about what's allowable. Does the seconder happy with that, to change that?
Yeah, I've got a seconder. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Okay,
Just get a bit excited there.
Trying to take me job.
righto, I'll speak to this. I think, it's got to be put in by a crane, and I think it's just an extra job to do, and if we can find a way we don't have to do it and it's still safe, then let's start the discussions about it. Does anyone else wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. L7, supply of second-hand goods from regional waste facilities. I'd like to...
Through the chair, just, it's 9-0.
9-0, sorry.
Yep.
Yeah,
Apologies.
good point.
Yep.
I didn't hear councillor Brooks.
Oh, yeah, that's a
didn't
good
hear it.
point. I better, before I move on to the next item. Councillor Edwards, you might, sometimes when two councillors talk, it chops the other one out at the same
Yep.
time. Were you in favour of that last motion?
I was.
Righto, 9-0.
Want me to give my name or something? Is
No,
it
no,
different?
no.
No.
If you both speak at the same time, it chops out
One gets covered up.
one person. That's what we
Who-
hear.
who- Well, I don't know who else is online, but I can go last.
Councillor O'Neill is online, so just so you know. Yep. But
Oh,
that's
righto.
fine. I should have actually asked. So thank you, councillors, for commenting on
No
that.
worries.
Okay. Righto, L7, supply of second-hand goods from regional waste facilities. I'd like to move that report be prepared for an upcoming council meeting. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook,
I have a question.
please go ahead.
Mr Mayor, I don't quite understand what you're
Righto,
asking
so
for.
what it is if people have long-standing compliance issues with council, that we would get a report back how we cannot serve them or let them take things from our dumps that are obviously contributing to long-standing compliance issues, right?
Oh, yeah, I couldn't understand what you mean,
Yeah.
right.
Sort of ties in with the other.
Yeah, it does, yeah. Councillor
Mr
McMullen?
Mayor, I have a concern or a question. Whilst I know we've been doing it, are we actually set up properly for selling our goods?
Well, you know, I think over time, as we go on this process, we will, like, we have one dump that's manned all the time. Not all the other dumps are, but I think over time there would be a way, and part of the report is how can we do it where there aren't.
Because I'm asking, are we set up? I'm not referring to who's there. Joe Bloggs can go in and pick up the biggest creep of rubbish you want and go up and say, I'll give you $10 for it. Now, it doesn't matter whether most of these ones you see, from what I understand, they're looked at by staff and say, we can put that out for sale. We don't just let people pick up. Some places, I believe, they don't let you just go in and pick item A up and say, I want to buy that because, you know, it could be junk that I think we are seeing getting put in people's yards. But if it's a good lounge chair or it's a good, when I say, you know, service of a lounge chair or an old lawnmower that might want fixing, but just to pick up a bit of an item that might be just had a bit of copper wire in it or something, and we'll get that for copper wire or whatever, and then just take it home and throw it in the backyard.
Yeah.
I think we should be, it's only my opinion, we should be, someone should be deciding what we will put out for sale. Could be a lot easier to handle once we get our ring road working properly too, rather than just let them go and pick what they want and say, can I give you $10? You know, I don't know how they work it, but can I buy this, you know?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, like, say at Warwick, it's all set up there, and they get stuff out and it goes over to the shop next door. Because you're right, how do you differentiate between, say, Councillor Hancock and I? We both might want the mower, but Councillor Hancock might be a bit more proactive and have it going next week, whereas mine might sit in the yard for 2 years. So, like, but I think you're talking about, like, tying in with the other one, those long-standing people.
Yeah, long-standing issues. So it's not, and so if you have long-standing issues, then it can be, if we're allowed to, and this is what the report's coming back, is that we will not allow people to buy things or take things from the tip because it can be contributing to the issues that the ultimately we're creating it for ourselves. So it's exploring, can we legally do it? Can't we? All of those things, how can we put a policy around it? And in the end, how can we, you know, and obviously it'd be for a decision of council. So it's not saying we're doing it, it's saying we're investigating it. Okay, righto.
And we would get that legal opinion.
Yeah.
Because whether we can actually legally say, well, yes to you, but no to you, that's my concern. When you, as a retail business owner, there's legal stuff around that. So.
Yeah, no, well, that's what the report would bring back, is how can we? Which I do believe we can, as long as we treat people fairly. Yeah, I believe that this issue is contributing to some of our long-standing issues where people collect things and see a value in everything they collect, and it contributes to a problem we're trying to fix in our communities. So getting a report about what can we do, I think will be very valuable, and how it would work in the different refuse facilities we do have. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes. Yes.
9-0. L1. Is it L1?
Yep.
Righto.
51.
L1, Roma Pool Maintenance Disability Toilet. Councillor Hancock.
I'd like to move that a report be brought back to council regarding 1, what maintenance has been done in the last financial year, 2, what maintenance is on the council schedule, and 3, how much would a unisex disability toilet cubicle cost to install?
I'll
Okay,
second that.
we have a seconder, Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak?
Yes, I do, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Please go ahead.
Mr Mayor, this has been raised, I'm sure, to other council as well. This was raised with Councillor O'Neill and Taylor and myself out in the public, that there has been, the public believes there hasn't been much maintenance spent on the pool, and there needs to be some maintenance money spent on the pool. And so whilst I understand that council's working towards upgrading the pool, you know, how long that's going to take, I think they want to know whether we're going to be spending some money on the maintenance whilst that's occurring. So that's the basis of this this report.
Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion?
Just a quick question, Mr Mayor. We've got L1 on our
Should be
sheet,
L8.
but it should be L8. That's what I couldn't work out.
Yeah, it should
Yeah,
be.
it's L8. They've just a printing.
Yeah, just a printing error, but I think we
I
moved.
asked about it. Yeah. Okay, well, I'll speak to the motion. I certainly support this. I think there's some work we need to do with procurement about how we can make it easy to deal with local businesses, because what I notice is the cost that council get to do something and what private people get to do something is different. And one of the big reasons I'd say is how hard council is to deal with as far as its procurement policies. So I think that this is good that this is coming forward from the community, and we actually also need to look at what sort of a solution can we get, as it well can be, you know, multiple years before we're going to get the new pool, if it is funded. So one of the issues is how can we do it more cost effectively, because it may mean that we could actually do an upgrade, whereas some of the costs seem to be very prohibitive when we get to look at anything. Councillor McMullen?
Mr Mayor, I'm all in support of this too. I recently put in a request for the manager of the pool, overseer of the pool up there, about the pumps. I'm not sure if anything's happened there. I haven't had a reply. I put it in her name, but those pumps have been leaking for a long time. And I know, as has been said, there is a pool in the pipeline, but those pumps should be fixed if they haven't already been fixed.
Okay, so did you want to put that in the motion?
Well, I've put a request in, Mr Mayor. I mean,
So you don't need it in this, or you don't need to speak to the mover about putting it in?
I haven't seen it, but it might not necessarily come back to me either, because I put it in.
Righto. Okay, so does anyone else, does the mover wish to sum up?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor. No, I'm good, thanks. That we all know the problems.
Righto. Okay, then we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes. Yes.
9-0. L2, well, that must be another one, so that's L9. L9, renewal of membership of Toowoomba and Surat Basin Enterprise Pty Ltd. Do we have a mover? Councillor Hancock.
I move that Council 1 approve the renewal and payment for a platinum level sponsorship of Toowoomba and Surat Basin Enterprise for 2022-23 by way of payment in the sum of $22,000 inclusive of GST as described in the renewal notice. 2, draw the funds from work order 14477.2538 Business Development Operations, Memberships, Business Development Projects.
Do we have a seconder?
I'm happy to second, but I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Just to the CEO, the 22,000, are we utilising these, the Toowoomba, what do they call it, Toowoomba and Surat Basin Enterprise? Like, do we, you know, get our money's worth, so to speak?
Yes, although certainly the engagement exercises we'd normally undertake with TSB over the last couple of years have been affected by COVID. They do have a reporting mechanism back to us around what they have done and haven't done. certainly as part, there had been activities that had been outstanding during COVID, and they were recently finalised when TISB visited us with their strategy development work, which they delivered to us maybe 6 or 8 weeks ago. So yes, we do. We certainly have had preliminary conversations yet again for this year, ahead of the report, to make sure that what we are selecting to do with TISB is strategic and it's relevant to the council.
Okay, does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Yeah, no, I'll support being a member of TISB. I think that's beneficial. I don't support any extra work being done, and I believe that whilst this is a significant amount of money, I believe that the standard membership that we have as a platinum member is a significant investment, and I'd be happy to support this motion. Does anyone else wish to speak? Then we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes. Yes.
9-0.
The next
58.
is, God, now numbers, what isn't it? L10, is it?
It's L10, Mr Mayor.
L10, yeah. A lot of L1s. Item L10, request for sponsorship Scon Time Roma Seniors Week. Yeah, Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to, I have a conflict on L10, request for sponsorship Scon Time Roma Seniors Week. The declaring councillor is myself, Wendy Taylor. The person of interest is myself as the treasurer of the Roma Clay Target Club. The particulars of interest is the Roma Clay Target Club is asking for sponsorship. It's a prescribed conflict of interest, and I'll leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Any other conflicts? Okay, do we have a mover? Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that Council 1 decline Scon Time Roma's $2,000 request for sponsorship for their Seniors Month event on 25th November 2022 to offer $1,000 in sponsorship to help fund the entertainment for their Seniors Month event on 25th October 2022. 3, allocate funds from GL 2887.2249.2001 sponsorship bucket.
Okay, can I ask a question? If we wanted to do the 2,000, what funding is in there in our buckets and so forth?
Currently, Mr Mayor, there's currently $35,500 available in the sponsorship budget. Just by way of update, Scon Time Rome are no longer seeking the same entertainer for this same event, so that was at the cost of $10,000. Rather, they are approaching another entertainer for about $3,000.
So they don't need that extra money.
Contribution then?
Well, they're reaching out to other organisations and businesses as well to help fund for that entertainer. And they have saved a little bit of money from this $5 during the month to put towards catering and whatnot as well for this event.
So the recommendation on the 1,000, is that based on we're going to like eat away at our budget completely by the end of the financial year, or what's
It's based on a process that some officers are going to bring to a council briefing next week. We at this stage don't have a sponsorship policy. We're going to bring that to a briefing, and it's just following that kind of process.
Yeah, I actually had a question on that, because in the report, it actually says that that policy, the sponsorship policy, page 60, come to council on the 17th of August, but I've not received that.
Yeah, sorry, Councillor Hancock, it got bumped last week.
For that
So
briefing, so
yeah,
it's
so it'll
going to
go
the
to
next
next
briefing.
week's council briefing.
I actually have another question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So what I just heard you say is they probably don't need as much money as they originally thought.
That's right.
So $1,000 would cover it. Is there no budget left in the Seniors Week budget to help out with this at all? Is it fully expended?
That's right. Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have fully expended it. They did come to us after we had already organised and planned Seniors Month.
Mm-hmm. And has there been any consideration of a community grant? Because this would be a great community grant as well.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just in terms of timing, they just wouldn't hear back. Council's community grants closing at the end of September, potentially might not hear back in time for this event.
And
What about the one that's open now?
Yeah, council's they close on the 30th of September.
For seniors.
Yeah,
And
for this month.
it's a risk if it
Doesn't make it. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it just thought better just to apply through sponsorship, and so through. Next week at the briefing we'll explain. We've got an application form for sponsorship, and we do ask whether they have applied for council's community grants to alleviate money coming through the sponsorship and kind of directing them towards council's community grants in that sense.
Has Seniors Month been pushed back? Because it used to be August, didn't it? Is it now?
I think so, but it just used to be a month. A week, and now
Oh,
it's a
It's
month.
been pushed
Yeah,
back to the month of October.
So council already give $5,000.
we do, and we've put that towards a musical that will happen on the 5th of October.
Yes.
And to pay for buses from other towns and for catering, and for the actual musical itself. So we expended that $5,000, and that was already, we had to lock that entertainer in some months ago. So by the time SCON time approached, we'd already spent it. We did get some extra money from another bucket, which we've also put towards other activities. So it was just in terms of timing that SCON time approached. And I did have some leftover money that I suggested that we could put towards as well. But they then were asking for closer to the 10,000. I just didn't see that as reasonable that we are spending so much money on Seniors Month as it stands.
Councillor McMullen, would you be willing to have it in the motion that if it's causing them any difficulty doing the event, that they come back and talk to us?
Mr. Mayor, I would think before I change anything, maybe we should talk about it in closed, because I've got a question I need to know, I would like to ask before anything, but I won't say anything in open. We can,
Well,
I'd be happy to lay it on the table till later, and we could discuss it when we're in closed for other,
Or do you want to make it as into a closed item then?
well, whatever's suitable, yeah, just to
That's-
discuss it.
That's the way you'd have to do it.
Margot, I suggest we move this into a closed,
Part of the closed agenda.
and lay it on the table till later in the day. Move it into a closed, move it to a closed item and deal with it later on in the day.
Through the mayor, you can't do that without justification as to why, and there's particular reasons that the CEO could find, which might fit with what you're asking for, Councillor McMullen. But under the new legislation, you just can't simply move it because you want to.
So perhaps
You
we
can
could
ask,
just
you
lay
can
it on
ask
the
to put it into
table.
close, because if you want to ask confidential item questions.
No. With all due respect, Councillor McMullen, there are particular reasons why, and that's why the legislation changed to make sure that most things, if possible, can remain open and transparent. And so there's provisions that can trigger things going into confidential.
Well, if that's the case, I'll just have to ask the question now then.
Well, we'll just see, because we just have to go by the
Yeah,
legislation.
through the chair.
I'm not saying don't do it.
No, I know, I'm saying I'm not having it, but
The general
by the
rule-
time I say what I want to know, the
CEOs.
question will be out there.
Yeah, CEOs.
General rule from a procedural motion perspective is that the question or motion be now put to a vote. So in case everyone's continues to talk and somebody says, look, enough, let's make a decision, that the motion and amendment now before the meeting be adjourned, that the meeting proceed to the next item of business, that the question motion lie on the table, which is what you're talking about, a point of order, a motion of dissent, report or document to be tabled, to suspend the rule requiring that, or that the meeting stand adjourned. You quite simply put, you can either lay it on the table, or you can move that you want to go into confidential, go into committee. If you can get that seconded and that by majority, then you can go into confidential right now, discuss it and come back out.
But it's
Yeah,
got to
so,
be
but
by one of those rules. You know how we read out that the list when we go into confidential and why? It's about those reasons.
Certainly, well, in relation to confidential, I think you've got things like it's commercial in confidence, that it is a legal matter, it's affecting the budget, that it's, sorry. There you go, thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
Oh, they're really small, Kel, we need to.
Would you,
So, Councillor McMullen, are
Like
you
the
happy to
government's
lay it on
budget.
the table to get more information about whether this can go into closed? So we just lay it on the table and we get the information?
Righto, yeah.
Right, all those
Lay
in,
on, right.
you
Lay
happy
on
with
the-
that? All those in favour?
Yes.
Yes, that's just laying it on the table.
yes,
To go,
that's
to
correct.
find out information to put it
Yeah.
into closed.
Yep.
Now I see that now on the screen. Yeah, thank you. So
Right,
I'm in
so
favour,
that's-
yes.
9-0, is it?
8-0.
Oh, 8-0. Of course.
Okay.
Who didn't?
Councillor
Oh, Wendy, yeah.
Yeah.
Councillor Taylor's got conflict. So that's about what rule, what reason to go?
What were you going to say, George?
The reality.
Not now.
Confidential, like am I going to come back and confidential?
Oh, I wasn't,
Okay.
well, yeah, I'm,
No, that's fine, you're not emailing a question or anything?
no, you'll probably, I don't know, you'll probably be able to answer, I don't know, yeah. Okay.
All right, we'll give you a hour.
Just a confidential.
You're sitting in front of the heater out there.
I don't- There you go.
Are we still an open meeting, Mr Mayor?
We are at the moment. I think I just lost one councillor, but
That's the,
we might,
that's the last item, isn't it?
we might keep going.
L11,
No.
we've got two little late ones.
But it's,
Okay, so what are we up to now?
L11.
L11? Oh, these individual ones, yeah?
I knew Paul was here for a reason, I remember reading that.
okay, item L11, live flight request, annual store sale fundraiser, sale day. Do we have any questions or do we have a mover?
I have a question.
I'm happy to move, Mr Mayor.
Righto, we have a question first and then Councillor McMullen's happy to move.
Through you, Mr Mayor, and I understand the basis of the report because of the policy that council's implemented. But can you, and I know it's probably off the top of your head, but I'm just thinking the budget, is the sale yards running at a loss? Do we have budget to cover this?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'm not 100% certain where the money's coming from for these charity sale days. I don't think it was ever discussed.
Through the chair, basically what, the money doesn't come from anywhere, you just get less revenue.
It's a reduction
So,
in income.
in other words, yeah, it is a reduction in income. So instead of getting 100% of the income through the chair, what you're getting is 50% of that income for that day. And so in essence, it's sort of, it goes across our donations, policy settings, why? Because they're actually asking for us to contribute to that. But in essence, from a commercial facilities perspective, you just get less money.
Okay, yeah.
And sorry, I probably should have asked the CEO.
That's
Sorry,
fine.
Paul,
Yeah,
put you
that's
on-
fine.
Officer Paul, put you on the spot. I guess my follow-up question is because I understood that we weren't actually giving out money. How are we sitting with our sale yards bucket of money to be able to, how will this affect our sale yards budget?
Look, through the chair, I'd take the question on notice just to make sure that I could give you an exact figure, because my understanding is that the sale yards budget is still a surplus budget, but it's quite a small surplus. So I'll take that on notice.
Can we lay it on the table until further in the meeting just to get that figure?
Councillor Guthrie?
Can I also ask a question, Mr Mayor, to the CEO, just for clarification, if it's going to get laid on the table? Because my understanding was that the money actually goes through economic development and does it actually goes from a journal from one cost centre to another. Because when we're talking about community grants, etc. So my query would be, is there a neater way of doing this that it actually shows where the money's coming from? So that it makes it really clear that when the donation is coming, it's a donation based on the formula of 50%.
Yeah.
So it's actually not coming from, it's coming through donation.
But we're not getting the revenue.
No, that's right. Yeah, we've got
So
it.
through the chair, it's a good question. Why? Because just thinking through that, and this is the problem we've got at the moment with a lot of our requests that are coming through for sponsorship donations, is that theoretically we're just taking less money, but in essence, in order to track it, we need to have an internal journal. So we need to either increase the bucket of donations accordingly, and then internally transfer it back to
Correct.
the sale yards.
Just to add to that, because to my way of thinking, you're actually dealing with two buckets of money, and it's getting lost in translation as to where
That's
the
right.
money's coming from. It's actually coming through donations, but the amount being sourced from an actual date and 50% of the proceeds, etc. So
Anyway,
is that-
we've got a motion to lay it on the table, so we'll put that motion. All those in favour to lay it
Yes.
on the meeting?
Okay, that's
Yes.
like 9.
9-0. Okay, L12.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just wait for a minute and we'll be back.
And then pausing,
And we're up to L12. Councillors, have you all received the email with the request for a motion to change? If not, I think we should wait till you've got that information and then.
Another one today,
11:49.
Yeah.
Not today.
Yeah, no, today.
11:49 today.
10 to 12.
I haven't had a chance to read it, but.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, anyone has.
So, through the chair, it's, as you are aware, in the last council meeting, you endorsed motions to go up to LGAQ. We've just had another request around the second motion we put up around renewable energies, whether we could adjust the wording so that a number of councils can put that motion up. So it's
combined.
whilst it's broadly picking up the motion that was endorsed by council, which was a bit more specific because this council's motion specifically talked to contribution fees and decommissioning bonds, and so essentially LGAQ would like to put up a merged motion around the same subject, but a composite motion, in other words, with other councils. It is broader. It's broader. It is talking about so your
Just gives it a bit more clout.
yes. So your motion was to have a mandatory notification process to local government for all renewable energy projects occurring within the region. B, ensure that meaningful engagement occur with local government and local leaders. C, consider a community contribution fee based on capacity for all renewable projects to support better community outcomes. And D, provide access to renewable project decommission bonds or the holding of those bonds in trust in order to protect prime agricultural land and support responsible decommissioning at an acceptable standard for the community. So you were very specific about what you wanted. The merge motion is broader, and it talks about that LGAQ calls on the state government to introduce legislation and policy which requires proponents of renewable projects to make a local benefit contribution to regional communities, and that such contributions are able to be negotiated directly with affected local governments. So in essence, talking to that, but not very specific.
But it now doesn't talk about the bonds and stuff.
No, it doesn't. So
which are a
remembering
big thing,
yeah.
you know. So obviously if councillors need time to read it, but I'm happy to lay this on the table later in the meeting, but the idea is that we could move two motions of the one report and then get it back to LGAQ.
Yeah, I'm happy.
But do you want a bit more time to read it?
If we put the both in here, we just need to change the subject heading to just 2022 LGAQ annual conference motions, not foot and mouth disease.
Yeah, well, that's right.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, Cal.
What was that, sorry, change it to?
The title.
Change the title.
Yeah, so the data.
Either add the
report
second one in or just
title.
put motions.
Yeah, but anyway, so would you like more time, councillors, to read it?
No,
I'm pretty good.
Okay, so do we have to do anything official with changing that title?
No. Look, through the chair, it's your recommendation, your resolution in the end ends up being based on whatever you resolve.
Okay, so we got the first one. So it's there anyway. So 2022 LGAQ annual conference motion, foot and mouth disease. Well, we're just going conference motions. So do we have a mover on the first one? Officer's recommendation. Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that council support the combined motion to the 2022 LGAQ annual conference, that the LGAQ calls on the state and federal government to, in consultation with local governments, develop and test a coordinated biosecurity response plan which focuses on prevention and preparedness activities to keep Australia free of foot and mouth disease, lumpy skin disease and African swine fever, and implement additional border control measures including increased detection dogs at all Australian ports of entry to ensure that the current outbreaks of foot and mouth disease, lumpy skin disease and African swine fever in Southeast Asia do not reach Australian shores.
Okay, we have a second, Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? I'll speak to it. The advice that I've had, that one of our biggest risks is not having, his meat products actually coming into Australia. And with the lack of knowledge by a lot of travellers and or Australian residents about the issue, it's a really big thing, as well as visitors. So I believe that this investment is the cheapest investment when you're talking about almost an Armageddon situation for regional Australia and or Australia really, because so much of regional Australia provides economic benefit for our cities. So, this is a big thing, and I'll certainly be supporting incorporating these, and hopefully it's supported at the state conference. Does anyone else wish to speak?
just have a question if I may.
Please go ahead.
The LGAQ conference with Councillor Guthrie and Councillor McMullen are going to, do they stand up and speak to this? Is that what that is? Is that what happens? I've never been to one, so I don't know.
So through the chair, the movers of motions can. Certainly, where there's multiple councils, all three councils might have a representative that speak to the motion. Yes.
So they're allowed to stand up and
Yes.
speak to the motion? Thank you.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
Yes.
9-0. Okay, now, do we have another motion on the other motion? And my question is, are you happy with those changes, or are we not happy with those changes where we lose the bonds and so forth out of the direct motion? Or do we need more time to consider it?
I suppose, Mr Mayor, when you look at it, we might be losing the bonds, but they still have to come and negotiate directly with each affected area, don't they? So whether that'll be the time to say this is what we want to do, I don't know. Like if we, our motion said the bonds and that, we've probably got a different view to other councils, obviously.
Or it might be they're worried about not having enough development. But the other question is, could we move it, including the word, including bonds, and keep to the new motion and add a word and send it back to them? Because those bonds, so much is about, that's the only thing that's really funding the project in the long term, is those bonds that are. left behind that are funded up front, but they're sitting there.
So they've got our original, our motion went into LGAQ, didn't it? So
Yeah.
they are aware of what we sent in.
And this is probably another council's motion.
Yeah,
So, do we just put the bonds in there to say we're happy with the change, just,
happy with the change in resolution to include.
yeah. To consider bonds or whatever,
It says in point C, consider a community contribution fee based on capacity for renewable projects.
Where's point C?
In the motion, A, B, C, D, I just wonder if that actually, they're actually calling it, might not have called it bonds, but they're calling it a community contribution fee.
Yeah, the feedback is that once the developers actually got the project up, sold it, like at the end, if it all falls over, the bonds are the only thing that you've got left to deal with,
Yeah.
And just like the gas in the early days, and we learn about camps that were third party and stuff, what do we put into this space?
So I guess that's my question is, are they calling it a different word? Are they calling it community contribution fee, or is that something different?
Well, it could be part of it, but I would say there could be many community, lots of things that create that community contribution fee.
Mr.
Yeah, councillor Guthrie.
Can I just suggest that we seek clarification, because as we sit here and we're assuming that one might mean the same,
Yep.
maybe worth really getting that
What's
clarified.
the one, when you're saying the one, which one are you referring to, Mr Mayor? The LGAQ's recommendation there, where do I see that?
It's the attachment.
Yeah, the motion, that is number one, isn't it? In the resolution. Now, dot point one in the resolution, submit a composite motion with other councils as attached. So that one's dot point one. Dot point two, submit Maranoa Regional Council's motion and risk the review committee 7th and 9th 22 not putting forward the motion as it is closely aligned with the composite motion. 3, or LGAQ are willing to put dot point C and D into the desired outcomes of the composite motion.
So, I'm councillor Guthrie, are you happy just to land on the table to get some?
I think so, because when you look at the motion that's actually being offered here, the motion that's being suggested that goes is that the LGAQ calls on the state government to introduce legislation and policy which requires proponents of renewable projects to make a local benefit. Well, that to me is about the contribution that's being offered and to ensure that the local areas are being looked after as a contribution to regional communities, and that such contributions are to be negotiated directly with the affected local governments. That to me says,
Where are you reading of that?
I'm reading on the attachment.
On the attachment,
The attachment.
Because there's the other one where it says bonds in point D up here.
where are you finding that one?
Yeah, I'm reading
Where'd you
exactly
find
that.
Kit?
That's on
I'm
the
reading
opening
the
page.
actual one that's
So
going.
councillor Guthrie's got the attachment opened, and the
Yeah.
first one, councillor Hancock's, it's on the email
So they're
itself.
both, they should be both exactly
Where's
the same
that there
because it's
though?
motion.
One's a,
Mr Mayor, all I've got on the screen there, this is your original motion that was submitted, and I've just taken the additional one that has been proposed in that attached email, just so that you have both in the same spot, that's all.
Yeah, so I'm reading the attachment as in the renewable energies projects composite the one that's actually going to LGAQ or suggested to go to LGAQ.
Which one's that?
That's
This
right.
one here?
And so,
Here? Yeah, no, but that's dot point one of the motion, isn't it?
I'm reading
No, but go into here.
Right, well, we have got a motion to lay it on the table till we get clarification about what it actually means. Okay, all those in favour?
Lay it on the table, okay.
Yes. Yes.
9-0. Okay,
did we have that other one information for it, that one we laid on the table earlier?
Yeah, through the chair, certainly can tell you that the terms of reference indicate that 2 is the quorum for the minutes, so that if council wishes to consider the report to receive and note the minutes, you can.
Righto. So what?
Thank you.
That's all right.
Comfortable with that? I know it's in
That is
10-1,
page
start of the
36.
day.
And that's, obviously, that's still okay with the, even though we've got 1 free, there's actually not a person sitting in that.
Yeah, yes.
Did we have anyone start moving that? Did we?
Tyson's up here as a mover.
Yes.
I think it needs to be reviewed.
Is there a seconder for that motion?
No.
I'm happy to
Okay,
second.
councillor Burkett seconds. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
9-0. Any others that were laid on the table we have information about?
Just those two last ones.
13.3, but that wasn't for today.
Right, L11 and L12. Yeah. Righto, we won't have that yet. Okay, so do we,
I'm gonna close.
Conflicts.
we have any conflicts?
C1.
Bungalow Sports Grounds, Rat Golf Club, Bassett Park.
Go ahead, Mayor Golden.
Yep, please go ahead.
Mayor, just before councillor Ladbrook, I've just got to step away for a minute, so just letting the minute take another.
Righto, please go ahead.
Okay, so I have a conflict, item C1, description 2022-23 proposed budget amendments, facilities, capital works. Declaring councillor is myself, councillor Ladbrook. The persons of interest, realised parties, is myself and my wife Alana. Particulars of interest: I'm a committee member of the Roma Turf Club and a sponsor of the Red Bulls Rugby League Club. And my wife is president of the Roma Show Society. The type of conflict is a prescribed conflict of, a declarable conflict of interest, sorry. And the action I'll take is leave the room while the matter is being discussed and voted on. That's it.
Righto, any other conflicts, councillors?
Councillor Edwards here. Can I just look at the closed items to see what's in there? Are they underneath there? Oh, I can't see it on the screen, sorry. Budget. Disaster. No, I think I'm pretty right on those.
Declarable conflict, yes, thank you.
Could you just scroll that up if there's any others, Kel, or is that only one page? Oh, yeah, there's.
No, they're okay. Tourism.
Righto.
All
Okay,
good. Thank you.
no other conflicts? Right, do we have someone to move into closed? Councillor McMullen.
Now I'll move it. In accordance with the provisions of section 254J3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the council resolved to close the meeting to the public to discuss confidential items that its councillors consider as necessary to close the meeting. In accordance with section 254J5 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the following table provides the matter to be discussed and an overview of what is to be discussed while the meeting is closed. C1, proposed budget amendments, facility, capital works. C2, disaster management planning, Roma levy and floodplain. LC1, infrastructure agreement, reference 2022-20658. LC2, Roma flood mitigation project stage 2 update. LC3, Tourism Experience Development Fund, TED, LC4 launch of the Queensland Electric Vehicle Charging Infrastructure Scheme. I think that's all, isn't it? Yep.
5 or 6, 6 or what, yeah.
Righto, do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0.
8-0. Okay, I would like to move to add an item without notice to the agenda. Do we have an item number?
11:13, L13? Oh, well, that's close.
Let me just have a look for your late item. That's correct.
That's correct.
LC5.
Would be the next, I think.
Yep.
Yes.
LC5. LC5.
Yeah.
Okay. So LC5, garaging of a council vehicle. CEO. Okay, so I move that this item is added to the agenda as LC5. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0.
So, right, and are you having that discussion now
Yeah.
to declare a conflict of interest?
So we will now deal with item LC5. Or do we have to change the order?
We probably, yeah.
Well, we can go into closed. Oh, okay, I'll move that LC5 be dealt in the next order of business. All those in favour?
Yes.
Okay. So, do we have someone to move to go into closed?
It was a procedural.
Procedural.
Yep.
8-0.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that council, I'll wait for Kel. Better go into closed, Kel, what's the wording, please?
Industrial matters, I think.
According to section
Can you blow it up a bit?
254J, 3B of the Local Government Regulation 2012, council close the meeting to deal with LC5. Does that sound good enough?
Yeah. Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbroke, any opposition? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Okay, if we can put the sign up and. Back in open. CEO, did you
Yes,
want?
I declare a conflict of interest in relation to LC5 as the report is about me. And I won't stay in the chamber and I'll leave the room.
Okay, so Deputy Director, you're here, so. Okay, do you want to come and sit here? Okay, so do we have someone, which we already moved to go into close? Would you mind doing it again, councillor McMullen? You don't need to. I think we've already declared why, so it's just.
Mr. Mayor, move that council go into close.
Yep, do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Encouraging of a council vehicle, CEO, I'd like to move that council resolve that the acting chief executive officer be given approval to garage, to garage a council vehicle. That's all we need. We have a seconder, councillor Ladbroke. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it?
Sorry, Mr Mayor, do we need to add in any of the points from?
No, I don't think so. I'm happy just to move what I've moved.
So that's not open then?
No.
The only thing that the community are going to see is that one? Is
Yeah,
the officer's
because it's a
recommendation.
closed item.
So no, that the CEO has been given approval to garage a council vehicle.
Yeah, so we have I don't wish to speak to it. Does anyone wish to speak to it? Then we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
Okay, 8-0. Righto, thank you, Deputy Director. We can get the CEO back.
Too late to go. Oh, no, we've got
There was one in the white.
one in the white.
Two in the white,
Two in the white.
maybe.
Where are we going to start, Mr. Mayor?
Well, we can start on ordinary confidential.
C1?
C1, correct.
Have we got any stuff in this stuff?
You've got a, you've got a conflict with this one.
Okay, I'll just call it C1 2022-23 proposed budget amendments, facilities, capital works project. Thank you. Councillor Ladbroke had a conflict and has left the room in all discussions and now has left the room again. Do we have a mover? Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move that council approve the reallocation of funds within the 2022-23 budget as recommended in the report to allow the Mungalala Sports Ground construction of new taller block and demolition of the Surat Golf Club clubhouse into progress to the construction delivery phase.
We have a seconder. Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak?
No.
We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0.
7-0.
7-0. Good point.
What is the budget?
So do we have some different wording for this, or is this as per the recommendation?
I think this is right, because this was talking about the
As
table
per-
one.
As per the resolution.
As per resolution. Could you blow just the whole thing up a bit?
Whole
Yeah, that's
bank
great.
up.
That's great. Okay, do we have a mover? Councillor Hancock.
That council undertake the disaster planning and preparedness services outlined in table 1 of this report, with the works to be funded from council's flood levy operations and maintenance budget.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Taylor. And any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0.
Is that 8? 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah,
7, 8, yeah.
8-0, yeah. Righto, that's all in that one, isn't it?
Okay, yes, that's right.
So we're on to late, open. LC1. LC1, Infrastructure Agreement, reference 2022/20658. Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to move that council enter into an infrastructure agreement with the applicant landowner addressing the items detailed in this report in exchange for land. 2, authorise the chief executive officer or delegate to undertake any actions necessary to prepare and execute the infrastructure agreement.
We have a second, Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Okay, moving on to page 10. LC2, Roma Flood Mitigation Project, Stage 2, update. We have a mover, Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move the council will receive the report by way of update to the Building of Regions Roma Flood Mitigation Stage 2 project.
We have a seconder, Councillor Guthrie. Do we need, does anyone wish to speak to the motion? Then we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0.
Page 17.
Page 17, LC3, Tourism Experience Development Fund, TED. I'd like to move that council receive and note the funding round and decline the offer to participate. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
All those against? So that will be 6-2 if I can call for a division.
Yep, 6-2, right.
Who was against?
Councillor Taylor and McMullen. Okay, now moving on to LC4, launch of the Queensland Electric Vehicle Charging Infrastructure Scheme. Councillor McMullen.
Mayor, I'll move that Council 1 receive and note the information relating to the Queensland Electric Vehicle Charging Infrastructure Scheme and the fact that Mitchell has been shortlisted as a location eligible for funding under the round of the scheme, under this round of the scheme, to submit a stage 1 expression of interest under the electric.
Can I just interrupt? I can't hear.
Oh, sorry. George turned me off again. You want me to start again?
How come I always get the blame, Councillor Ed?
One, receive and note the information relating to the Queensland Electric Vehicle Charging Infrastructure Scheme and the fact that Mitchell has been shortlisted as a location eligible for funding under this round of the scheme. 2, submit a stage 1 expression of interest under the Electric Vehicle Charging Infrastructure Scheme for the town of Mitchell. 3, be presented with a subsequent report outlining agreement conditions and funding allocation prior to the execution of any funding agreement under this scheme.
Okay, we have a seconder, Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0.
$10.1, I'm going to say.
10.1.
It is.
Oh, I thought we'd done that one.
No, I don't think we did. Did we do that one?
Yeah, we've done that one.
We've done that one.
Yeah, I did it, I think.
Oh, did we?
Which is the next one, Kel, sorry? L10.
I've got a crossed off. 58, I think.
Oh, that don't cost us. Oh, wait a minute.
Well, now's when we'll ask again.
I've got to get out of the room. Are you doing L10?
L10, yeah, it's gone time.
Yeah, through the chair, it's gone.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at
Yes.
10.
That is at page
Wrong
58.
Oh, 28.
L10, request for sponsorship, Scone Time Roma Seniors Week. Councillor Taylor's had a conflict and has left the room before and will do so and has done so. Okay, did we have some information we were chasing or?
Through the chair, you needed a reason to go into confidential.
Mm.
That's right.
That's right.
How do I work?
Okay, did we get,
if
did
I
we get
want
any
to-
information on that? We were
No, I
waiting
didn't.
on the table to get some information. Have you received anything?
Well, no, I haven't, but I mean, once I say the reason, they know what I'm going to talk about, so I might as well not
No,
wait.
no, but I mean offside, so we'll just.
How do you mean, Mr Mayor?
No, through the chair, the difficulty in relation to going into confidential was that the councillor needed to consider the reason as identified in the confidential motion, i.e. Declare what the reason was for going into confidential, which would have been.
Well, I wanted to know, is this an affiliated was a committee or anything? I don't think.
It's about
Yeah, it was in
budget.
relation to budget, yes.
Beg your pardon?
So to go into closed, if Kel just brings up those options
Yes.
like she did before. Yeah, you'll be able to go into close for that reason, and then you can ask your question
For what?
about budget. We're going to talk about finance.
Well, that wasn't the question, but that wasn't my reason. They were going to talk about budget then, okay.
Well, we don't. I'm not putting words in
All
your
I
mouth.
just said, I've already said what I...
Okay, well then don't do it. I'm not putting
Okay.
words in your mouth.
Is this this is not, Scun Time, I don't, nothing against Scun Time, but I don't think they're a group or anything, are they?
So, through the chair.
Who's the chair, who's the president?
So it's saying that the Roma Clay Target Association is putting in.
Yeah.
Through you, Mr Mayor, it's Robert Nugent is the one that approached council, and when I've asked for his ABN, I think it's affiliated with the Roma Clay Target Association.
Oh, right, because that's not like...
Yeah, because it says Scon Time Roma
So we're
has
not actually
approached.
declining Scon Roma, we're declining
Well,
Roma
that's-
Clay Target Association.
Well, that's, yeah.
Well, it says Scon Time Roma has approached council.
And a lot of these groups have sort of subcommittees and so forth, but someone's
Well,
looking after the money and.
That's
fair,
what I'm
that's
saying.
fair enough. It probably
Yeah.
just should have
Well,
said.
I'm not against it, what I'm saying is, it's not, and what the answer is, it's not Scon Time that's asking the question.
And we do have to be clear for that, because
Well, I
it's
mean-
a resolution that we're putting the money, who we're putting
It
it
is
to.
the Scon Time Roma committee that are asking for it.
Yeah,
Yeah, and they would be auspiced under
Right,
Roma
yeah.
Gun Club.
That's fair enough. It probably should just say that in there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's
but
all
There is, I would imagine, a subcommittee and they're the people that are being involved,
Yeah.
but really, like, they wouldn't want to start a whole association just for a scon time once a month, so.
But what I'm saying is, then if it's not, it's actually Roma Clay Target Club that's asking.
Yeah, well, Scon Time is asking, but it's.
They can't ask
auspiced-
Mr Mayor unless they're a group.
Well, they ask you to come every month, so like.
So how does a lot of other things, you go to Bring Your Action Group, they've got about 4 people under them, so it's
Yeah,
Bring Your
they do.
Action Group on, you know, yeah.
So
I'm
Mr.
not against it, but
Mr.
Councillor
Mayor,
Hancock?
we actually have a councillor who could answer that question, and we can, through the CEO can actually ask a question that there's just answered, and then we can have that answered right now, how that set it up. That's part of the legislation with your conflict of interest. You can actually ask a councillor a question.
And it's up to the CEO if the CEO wishes to, but I think we've got our answer. We know that
We
it
don't
is,
really, we need to know.
it's
the money's
auspiced
going
by
to.
Roma Clay Target Club, and there is a group of people that do scon time.
Yeah, but
So if you want to know who it is, it's Roma Clay Target Club, which is the backing behind it, and whether that needs to be in a resolution.
It just needs to be put there because it just says, like, if Joe Blow down the street was reading it, they'd think Scon Time Roma is using the Roma Clay Target facility. It doesn't, I wouldn't have known that, so.
Well, I think that there is some people, so what do you think, CEO?
Look, through the chair, what I think you're trying to establish is whether the motion is valid. Why? Is because are they eligible to receive the money in this form or not? And the answer is you might already have that answer, and it might well be just amending the motion to make it more valid or to make it valid, which may well be is that you mention the name of the auspicing organisation if you think that Scon Time Roma is not eligible in relation to your donations or sponsorships policy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Councillor Guthrie?
Mr Mayor, just following on from that, so for example, if they were to receive $1,000, which bank account would it go to? Would it go to Scon Time Roma or would it go to Roma Clay Target? I'm assuming it would go to Roma Clay Target because they would be overseeing the payment of all the
and the
bills.
thing, it says everything's currently underwritten by Baker Roma.
Okay, let's hear from our officer.
I'm happy to give Robert Nugent a call and just clarify those details. If it is definitely Roma Clay Target Club that's auspicing it, and whether the money will go into the Roma Clay
Oh,
Target
yeah,
or Baker Roma's
Yeah.
bank account, just to clarify that.
Oh, well, you need to know that now that you've brought up
And, and
business.
just through the chair, I think the
Well, it says
question
it's paid-
is
underwritten by Baker Roma.
is Scon Roma an incorporated
59.
association?
Well, I think they've been donating most of it, that's what's been going on, which is,
And so CEO, as far as asking the councillor with a conflict, do you understand that in the Local Government Act? Can you do that, or?
I'm
what's
not
this?
quite sure exactly what you mean
that's-
in relation to that context, because,
I didn't, Councillor Hancock's got some info there, she said, yeah.
right,
And it's on our sheet, but yeah, within our training, we can ask a councillor a question that's through the CEO. The CEO can ask a councillor a question that has a conflict. They can't engage in conversation as in part of a debate, but you can actually ask a councillor if they've got the information that is needed to help make a decision at the table. You can actually ask them a question that they could answer.
yes.
And when it's done through the CEO, it's not influencing other
Yes.
councillors, it's done through the CEO, and then the CEO passes on that information.
Yes, but, and are you, through the chair, councillor, are you raising that because for me to ask the councillor
Well,
if
if
you're actually want to define why you're actually wanting to use a particular lever in your meeting, i.e. go into confidential for a meeting?
No,
Because you don't have a conflict.
The affiliation between Scon and
Yeah, just-
Roma Target, that's the question.
My question
the
is, who's Scondine? Who is?
Yeah, yes, so through the
How they're
chair,
set up with how they're set up through Roma Clay Target Club, and the council with the conflict has that answer.
right,
That's all I'm saying. You don't have to.
Yes.
I was just raising that
Yes.
we probably could.
so, and the councillor with a conflict is I'm with you, sorry, penny's dropped. So in other words, the councillor's out of the room and I
Yeah,
could
'cause
go and
that's-
seek that
she would know the
information,
answer.
get that information, actually
Who's the,
provide it to
the
the.
simplest thing, who's the
Yep.
president, who's the secretary, you know, of the
and-
committee?
And I guess if there's not enough information in the report and that we need to seek additional information, do you want to lay it on the table until we actually seek that information and then come back to you, whether that's through the person who has a conflict or not?
My suggestion would be that Georgie, as the LDO, has actually put this together, I'm assuming, and could actually contact the person who's mentioned here just to seek clarification.
Yeah, I'm happy to give Robert. He's answered plenty of other calls. So if you have other matters to discuss, I don't imagine it would take too long to find this information out.
But to me, we've already got that information, because
Well,
he
just-
gave you an ABN for
That's
Roma the
Yeah,
gun
I would
club.
just like
Is
to
that
maybe
correct?
clarify that the money won't be going into Baker Roma, rather it would be Roma Clay Target Club.
Yeah, and if we do the motion, we can actually put in that it's to go to Roma Clay Target Club.
So we can sponsor money to someone that doesn't exist.
No, Roma Clay Target Club.
Well, that's not in the resolution.
So,
No,
so
but
through
we
that
can
you can
change the
adjust.
resolution.
Oh, change the
Yeah, you can
resolution.
adjust.
Okay, that's it.
So if
And
you,
then-
I'm not worried, yeah, that's my question. I'm not against that, no.
So that's what I would be doing, is I would be actually putting as Roma Clay Target
Yeah,
Club.
no, I'm happy. with
Brackets,
that.
Scon
I'm not-
time.
not that-
Okay.
Because if the council's books get audited and they want to know who Scondine
no.
is. Yeah. No, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, well, we've all, I think most of us have been there and paid
Oh, look,
$5 and,
it's a great bit of thing, but
yeah.
yeah.
We just have to do our due
Yeah.
diligence and have our resolutions right, because that's.
So are you happy to move something at the moment, or?
Well, I thought we were getting the information.
No, I'm happy if we're going to change the resolution. So Mr Mayor, I'll move the council. The, sorry? Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll have-
that's what I wrote
yeah.
down too, so that's good.
Okay, I'll read. Council 1 declines Scon Roma's $2,000 request for sponsorship for their senior month event on the 25th October 2022. 2, offer $1,000 in sponsorship to Roma Clay Target Club to help fund the entertainment for Scon Roma Seniors Month event on 25th of October 2022. 3, allocate funds from GL 2887.2249.2001 sponsorship bucket budget.
Okay, we have a seconder, councillor Guthrie.
Can
Do
we,
you have a question, councillor Hancock?
I just wonder, would you mind amending it? Is it just a sponsorship budget? I don't think we need to have the word bucket there.
Councillor McMullen first read it out earlier during the meeting.
Did I say bucket, did I? Okay.
So I just put
Okay, no, sponsorship budget, fine, yeah.
I thought you said bucket before.
I might have done too.
Okay, now, does anyone wish to speak to the motion? I'll speak to the motion. I think Scone Time is a great initiative of the gun club, and it's a really great thing. Anything we can get the community together, our seniors together, and they actually get a really good roll-up. So congratulations to all the people involved. And I'm sorry we can't give the full amount, but hopefully as the entertainment has changed, that hopefully this is a bigger contribution than it would be in relation to the amount needed. And congratulations for everyone, as I said, that puts this together each month, and long may it continue. Does anyone else wish to speak?
Mr Mayor, I just have a question that might be an additional. If I
Right.
just thought of something.
Please go ahead.
Through you, Mr Mayor, Officer Georgie, just even though we're providing this sponsorship, will it be advertised? Can we include this event in our Seniors Month advertising? And will you guys go and do that, or do we need to add that to the resolution?
It's already being done,
Yeah,
Mr Mayor.
it'd be really
It's
nice
on our
to just.
program with council's flyers and within like the media release, and if they do up a flyer, or if I do up a flyer in conjunction with Scone Time Roma, then it'll be advertised as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So, sorry, Mr Mayor, good to go.
No problem. Does anyone else wish to speak?
I'd just like,
Please go ahead.
I would just like to say I too agree with Scone Time. It's a great initiative for the senior people all to get together.
Okay, no one else wish to speak? We're going to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
Okay, so we're 7-0. Okay, is there any other business?
No, what about
Good.
11 and 12?
Georgie, I can't tell you what to do, but I just want to raise something while you're here with this, when we've closed the meeting.
No, we haven't.
No, I'm just asking if Georgie can hang about. I can't tell her what to do. When the meeting's
Okay,
closed,
well,
I'll-
just hang on, councillor McMullen. We'll just adjourn the meeting for a minute. So we're on L12, LGAQ conference motions. Does everyone understand and got the information we need? Councillor McMullen,
I'm happy to move, Mr Mayor. Kel,
please go ahead.
you had a piece.
We're
L12.
going out of order.
Oh, is it 11?
Actually out of order.
We'll just hold that one. So then we'll go to L11. And we have Manager Paul here. If we've got any questions. Do we have any questions on L11? Life Flight Request Annual Store Sale Fundraiser, or do we have a mover?
Well, if we've got no questions, I'll...
Councillor Burkett,
I do have a question.
please go ahead.
So just in relation to that information with the budget, you've got the information about that it's going to break even, but how are we still going to fix up our internal transactions that we were talking about at our Q1?
So through the chair, just in confirmation with our finance department, is what they're telling us is how they have managed the recent transaction is taking the money out of community grants and then adjusting the sales revenue of the sale yards. Yes, we would normally adjust that if one transaction's happened sequentially ahead of another one, we would adjust it at the Q1 review. And I'm just looking at, whilst we're looking at an anticipated break-even budget of what we've adopted, if I'm looking at the sale yard revenue for the month of July, which is significantly higher than the year before, and if that's projected out and stays consistent across the calendar year, you will have a projected revenue of an additional 280,000. So you do have the ability to fund it out of sale yards revenue. However, you will need to look at that when you go through your quarterly review processes. But at this point, it would, where you don't have the revenue, you would have to just adjust it out of another area of council and then readjust it closer to, at that quarterly budget review time to take it out of sale yards revenue.
Councillor Ladbroke?
If that makes sense. Not
Yeah,
sure.
I just have a concern. Can we afford that amount of money? Because maybe we get the other one, the other service provider, we get 3 of them. And can we bring it down to, to 30%?
It's in our
30%?
policy.
So we adopted that
We
policy.
adopted the policy for 50%.
What, the 3 of them?
Yeah, 3 of them, maximum 50%.
Maximum 50%?
We did.
But does it have to be 50%?
Well,
Look,
no.
through the chair, council can change its
Yeah,
policy or go outside of its policy.
But you-
Otherwise, it's a lot of money.
We don't want to, we've already
Okay,
given
well,
one
let's
lot.
not have you got any more questions, or do we have a mover?
Is the information you gave us in this email public, Madam CEO?
Through the chair, probably not at the micro level, but it is in a broader sense.
Okay, because it's just saying here that the 22-23 budget would be an operating loss.
$254. It's virtually break even.
That's not the figure that's in this email.
That's the,
Anyway, if that, do we have a mover while we're finding that out?
I'm happy to move.
Okay, councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move the council A, approve the request from Lifelight, a registered charity, to hold a store sale fundraiser at the Roma Sale Yards on the 20th of September 2022 in accordance with the policy, and B, advise Lifelight to provide a marketing campaign proposal to council, which is agreed to by council prior to promotion. C, advise Lifelight to market the charity sale event via their promotional channels and have an engaging presence at the charity sale day, which benefits the present sale yard stakeholders. D, assist Lifelight with co-promotion of the council media opportunities.
Okay, do we have a seconder?
I just have a question.
Please go ahead.
Councillor Burkett, could we put in there somewhere that they do start promoting a certain amount before?
It's
They
like
have.
3 or
Yes,
4
in there.
months?
They have.
It's in there, B.
They've already done
Marketing
it.
campaign.
Yeah.
B.
proposal
Okay, well, I'll second that motion.
to council, but it doesn't say a time.
No, but
Prior.
but anyway,
Prior could be a week before.
but,
It's in
Yeah.
it's in their interest to put
You
it
know,
out
we've
there.
given money before and they leave it a week before.
Not for them. This is the first time.
No, not them, but
No.
the others.
okay, so does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, Mr Mayor. I think this is one of 3 very worthwhile charities that we support through the sale yards. With giving them the emphasis on Lifelight to help promote this is a good thing for both parties. I think the more we can get through the sale yards helps us as well, and also helps them. We've set a precedent with Royal Flying Doctors, so I think this is the second of the group, so I'm happy to support this.
Okay, does someone else wish to speak against the motion or for the motion? Councillor Hancock?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I'm happy to support this application. It's based on our sale yard fundraiser policy that council adopted. But I do have some financial concerns for our sale yards in the future. So I do think that maybe we need to be looking at our policy again to see where we sit at the end of this financial year to see if we can afford this moving forward.
Now, does someone wish to speak for them or against the motion? I'll speak against the motion. I'll be supporting this. I do think they've...
Are you
I
against
think
the motion or for the motion?
No, well, against or for the motion I asked, and I'll be speaking for the motion.
Oh, you didn't pause.
Righto, okay. So I'll be speaking for the motion. Basically, councillors, just to remind councillors that you made a decision to have 3 events a year, and you lock that in. So to me, there is nothing that we can do now except for get on with it until someone brings a rescission motion about it. And, I think that the decision is already gone, and now we've got to get on with it, and hopefully we bring more producers using the sale yards because they want to donate to these charities with half of the yard fees that they know is going to the charity. We've got Lifelight building a hangar pretty close to turning first soil. And I think we need to support it in every way. But if anyone is concerned about not wanting to do so much, they really need to think about that when they're making policies that had a much wider ramification. And now I think we need to get on with it. Does anyone wish to speak for or against? Does the mover wish to sum up?
Yes, Mr Mayor. I do think that we can turn things around at the sale yards, and I don't think we should be changing this mid-year when we've only had, this is a second out of 3 charities that we're going to sponsor. I think, mate, for sure we revisit it again early next year before the rounds start again and see how things, but I'm very confident in the Paul and the sale yards the numbers to swing around, and this is a worthwhile cause for landowners to support, graziers to support this and get numbers up.
Okay, on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0.
Just a question, Mr Mayor, through you to Madam CEO. To change policy, do we have to do rescission notices to change policy, or can we just have a look at our policies and update them?
No, through the chair, you can just amend your policy.
No, I think Mr Mayor was talking about if we were going to change it now, like change the resolution.
Rescission notice on the 3
Actually,
meetings. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. Don't forget your hat.
Okay, L12, LG 2022 LGAQ Annual Conference. Did we have
I'll have
Councillor?
another crack at an
Well, it was Councillor Hancock up the top there. Oh, right.
I went
okay,
to move
gotcha.
it before and I was out of order.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that council not support the combined motion of the 2022 LGAQ Annual Conference in relation to renewable energy projects.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hancock. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Is there any further business, councillors?
That I know.
That was the actual.
Edwina wants.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's not in the
No
legal.
further council business?
We're closing the
No.
meeting.
So we'll close the meeting at 5:01 PM. Thank you for your attendance, councillors.